welcome to the 147th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Little late night tea action for your ass. As got out of the house today to celebrate the new league year, took the family out to a restaurant. Things are starting to get back to normal. I told you, it's not there yet, okay? It's still weird looking up and seeing people come into an establishment with a mask on. However, it feels good to be able to get out of the house, to say, hey, let's go to a restaurant and not really think twice about going, just get up and go. Now, there's still social distancing in the restaurant, so you may not be able to just walk in and get a table, especially if you don't have a reservation. But it felt good to be able to just say, hey, let's go get something to eat, sit down, and do it. We did that tonight. We celebrated the new league year, and we had a blast. Hence the later than normal podcast for this week. Obviously, this isn't something that we'll do all the time. This week has been a unique week because it is one of the biggest weeks of the NFL offseason, the tampering period and that window right before the start of the new league year, which is today. Happy new league year to all of you out there. And then the next week that will be a massive week will be that of the draft. And then we'll go dark. And then we'll come back for the start of training camp. So, some people get excited about the schedule release. I think the NFL has said they're slated to do that in May. I don't get too worked up about that. We already know the teams that we're playing. We just don't know when we're playing them. We don't know when the bye week is. We don't know what primetime games we'll get, this, that, and the third. However, you already know who you're playing. It's just a matter of when, how, and how it's configured. So, I don't really get worked up about the schedule release, but nonetheless, this is a big week in the NFL offseason schedule. And so we've been going live every single night, and we've been doing it later in the evening to kind of allow the day's transactions to transpire so that we have something to talk about later on in the evening. Tonight, a little bit later, again, went out, popped a couple of bottles for the start of the new league year as the 2021 NFL campaign gets underway. All of these moves that we've talked about, free agent-wise, finally coming into fruition. Contracts are actually being signed. Trades that we've known about for weeks and months are now finally actually going to go through and become official. So a lot of things that we've been waiting for to actually become official happened today. And so we'll talk about some of those things and more moves that have been made. Some of them you could see coming really off in the distance. You saw it coming. Others, not so much, like Patrick Peterson heading to Minnesota. We all know that Mike Zimmer loves his veteran corners. Hence, having Terrence Newman on his roster for 18 years, no matter where he went, Terrence Newman followed, whether it was Cincinnati or Minnesota. But lots of different things to discuss on tonight's program. But I want to start by talking about free agency, because that's what we're here for, free agency. But I want to talk about the free agents that are left, not the guys that have been signed already, but I want to talk about some of the best free agents remaining on the market as the new league year gets underway and the tampering period is officially over. So I'm going to give you about a good 15 or so names, 10, 12 names or so still available that are out there. And who knows how long it'll take some of these guys to come off of the board. I've got my top 23 list here in front of me. Yesterday, we talked about the list dwindling. There were only 7 available players left on that list. We actually had 8 coming into the show. William Jackson III was removed from that list last night as we were live. Today, 2 more names have come off of that list. In offensive tackle, Trent Williams, who was my second overall free agent. And you saw the money that he got. We'll talk about that later on in the show. And Patrick Peterson was my number 16 free agent in my top 23. He's gone now, as I mentioned at the top of the show. So now that list has been trimmed to just 5 players left in my top 23, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. So with that said, let's get to the proceedings this evening. You know what it is. You already know. Don't act brand new. You know I don't like when you act brand new. You know how we start this thing off every single time. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. A little bit of spittle there. Didn't want me to get it out. Go ahead and swallow that. So, let's talk about free agency and some free agents that haven't been signed quite yet. And eventually, these guys will find new homes. But, you know, it's funny how this thing works because you think the big names are going to be the first ones to come off the board. And this year, because of the reduced cap and the unique set of circumstances, teams actually went around the big names and went straight to the little guys and tried to ink as many of them as they could possibly get, except for New England. They kind of said, to hell with all of that. We're just going to get every single player that we want, and we won't worry about any of the ramifications, and we're not worried about what anybody else is doing. We're going to take care of our stuff. And so they went out and they were busy early and often, and they were aggressive. But when you look at what is still available, there's still big name players, and generally in free agency, the big name guys, they go right as this thing gets underway. I mean, the Kenny Galladays of the world and the Will Fullers, they're normally not sitting here when the new league year actually gets underway. They're usually the first guys you hear about getting a new contract when the tampering window opens up on Monday. So we're sitting here Wednesday night and these guys still haven't found homes. That's different, okay? So we start obviously with Kenny Galladay. Word on the street though is he's going to end up in New York with the Giants. He's been reportedly offered a 1-year prove-it deal with the Cincinnati Bengals, which he turned down. And so he's made it abundantly clear, according to reports, that he'd like to play for the Giants. He'd really like to play in New York with the New York Giants. And he wants his agent to find a way to make that happen. But obviously you want the numbers to fit as well. So reportedly, he's supposed to have a meeting with the Giants brass, which we haven't heard that phrase, meeting with a team. Haven't heard that in at least 2 years, it feels like, because last year's free agency wasn't free agency like we've been accustomed to. And so, you know, meeting with the team seems like something that players did in the Stone Age. But he's going to meet with the Giants brass. They're going to try to convince him that that's where he needs to be. I don't know what the deal is going to look like. Obviously, it's not what Kenny Galladay thought he was going to get. You know, everybody's ridiculing him for turning down the money that he did, similar to Le'Veon Bell when he turned down the Steelers deal only to take a deal that was less money with the Jets the following year. He's kind of in that same boat. Turned down big money, $19 million per year from the Lions when they offered him a long-term deal last year. He decided to turn that down, thought he was going to get big money in free agency, had an injury-riddled season last year, put up some pedestrian numbers, and now everybody's looking at him sideways like, what are you talking about, dude? So and he couldn't have predicted that the cap was going to, maybe his agent should have told him, look, man, I don't know what the ramifications of no fans in the stands and all of the things that are going to transpire with this coronavirus, and nobody could have really seen how serious coronavirus was going to actually be and what it was going to do to sports and specifically the NFL. But got to have some foresight. His agent probably should have told him last March, you probably should take that money. And it wasn't even March. It was probably closer to the summertime. He probably should have said, hey, man, I don't know what the future holds. You probably should take that money. He didn't. He's here now, and it's not going to be anywhere near $19 million. It's not going to be anywhere near that. And looking at what you're seeing some of these receivers get, you know, another receiver off the board in Curtis Samuel today to Washington. We saw what Corey Davis got. And who would have thought we'd be at the first day of free agency and Corey Davis would be the leader in the clubhouse in terms of the highest contract handed out to a receiver? Who would have thought? First of all, I didn't think Corey Davis would get more money than Curtis Samuel. So the fact that Corey Davis is the leader in the clubhouse as we sit here, that won't last. Somebody's going to unseat him, whether it be Will Fuller or it be Kenny Golladay or it's Juju Smith-Schuster. Someone's going to unseat him as the highest contract for a multi-year wide receiver in this offseason. But right now, Corey Davis's 3-year, $37.5 million deal is the leader in the clubhouse. And I didn't think I would be able to say that at any point in this free agency process. So the fact that we're talking about Kenny Golladay sitting here is amazing, but he's not getting anywhere near what he thought he was going to get. And at some point, you have to come to that realization, and you got to tell yourself what's in the best interest of me. And to me, if you believe in your abilities and your capabilities in this league and you're healthy, bet on yourself. Take a prove-it deal. 1 year. Essentially, take a franchise tag. 1 year, prove it, hit the market again next year, and you've got to be telling yourself, we're going to get butts in the seats this year. The cap is going to go up. There's new TV money coming. The cap will increase exponentially next year, and I'll be able to hit it big next year. That's what you should be telling yourself. But players in the NFL, and I do not blame them, don't operate in that mindset. They operate in wanting guarantees. They want to have financial security, and I get it because Kenny Golladay could tear his ACL. I don't want to put that in the atmosphere, so I'm going to knock on a little bit of wood here. But anything could happen is essentially what I'm saying, and they realize that, which is why players don't like to take those types of risks. This isn't the NBA. This isn't Major League Baseball. You want to make sure that you're financially taken care of, and in the event of injury, you're still going to be okay. Your family's going to be okay, and your future is going to be okay. So I get it, but Kenny Golladay still out there. Another name out there, Anthony Harris. He's currently number 7 on my list of free agents. The 5 that are left in my top 23, he's one of the 5 at number 7. I told you I didn't love his age at 29. That was one of the things that turned me off. But another thing was he didn't have a strong 2020 campaign, but really nobody on that Vikings defense did. So he's really, I think, feeling the brunt of that. He's 29, so that doesn't help because we've seen young safeties get paid already. We've seen multiple young safeties get broken off this offseason. Why is, Anthony Harris still here? I don't know if he's asking for an inordinate amount of money, or teams are like, no, we'll go with the younger guys, the John Johnsons of the world, and the Rayshon Jenkins of the world. Like they're going in that direction. Those guys have gotten paid already. Kenny Golladay or Anthony Harris is still waiting, and I don't know if it's tied to his age. I don't know if it's tied to the lack of playmaking last season and the down year, or what may have you, but there's always a place for a good quality safety in this league, and he's still waiting. He'll get a deal, but I don't think it's anywhere near what he thought he would have gotten at this point. I know he wished he could turn the clock back 1 year and have the Vikings not put the franchise tag on him, because he would have gotten a massive deal from someone had this been last offseason when he was at his height in terms of his value. I think his value has taken a massive hit, and I think we're seeing that right now. And ultimately, he could get a massive deal. We sat here and we said Trent Williams hasn't signed in San Francisco. They seem to be miles apart, and then we wake up and Trent Williams has one of the richest contracts we've ever seen for an offensive lineman in NFL history, one of the richest deals we've ever seen for a non-quarterback, for that matter. So, I mean, we don't know. Somebody could be cooking up some crack in the background we don't know about, and tomorrow we wake up and Anthony Harris has a lucrative 4-year, $72 million deal, something crazy like that. I doubt it, highly doubt it, but you never know. Will Fuller the 5th. This is a guy that is currently number 5 on my top 23 list. One of the 5 players still left of my top 23. I love this guy, but I don't love his injury history. I don't love the fact that he was suspended last year for 6 games for PEDs. those are things that you definitely take into consideration. His injury history, this guy's never played 16 games, and I don't know if he ever will. This is a guy that just got suspended, so he's literally one offense away from being suspended indefinitely. These are things that scare you. They give you pause. One thing that doesn't give you pause is the fact that this guy is one of the fastest receivers in all of football, and he's a dynamic playmaker that changes things when he's in the lineup. Period. End of discussion. You already got a fast receiver. You add him to the mix. Now you've got two. Now someone can't help over the top, or you're going to have a light box and you should be able to run the football effectively. He changes things drastically for an NFL offense. You put guys like him on the field, and automatically one safety has to come out of the box, because if there's nobody over the top, he's running past your corner. There aren't many corners in the league that can keep up and run step for step with a guy like Will Fuller V. So again, he changes things dynamically, and you get paid in this league for the things that he brings to the table. But I think there are some things that do worry you. Injury history being probably the chief concern, and then the PED violation last year is something else that you bring up in contract negotiations with Will Fuller. So there are some things here that do give you a bit of pause, but you can't teach what this guy has, and not many in the league have it. I've talked about him being the most dangerous deep threat in the league, not named Tyreek Hill, and I stand firmly by that. There's no one that I look up and see winning at a higher clip, getting the deep ball than Will Fuller in this league. And I think there is a reason that a team should be willing to take a chance on Will Fuller and pay him good money as well. You know, we'll see what happens with him. He'll get an opportunity somewhere. Trust me, that is coming soon. Dick Sherman is another big name. He was not in my top 23. He's 32 years old. Obviously, the best of Dick Sherman has come and gone, but he's still a good football player and a savvy one, that if you're playing cover three, this is the man for the job. He can still do that at a very high level. He's still very aware. If you make a mistake, he can still make you pay for that mistake. So there is a place in the league for him. The question is, where is that? And so I don't know the answer to that for Dick Sherman and where he'll land. Ultimately, he'll find a home. You know, someone is going to be interested. There was a report out there that the Saints, remember, Janoris Jenkins was playing opposite of their number one corner. And so he signed with the Tennessee Titans, did Janoris Jenkins, in free agency. So that leaves a void at the number two corner for the New Orleans Saints. It makes a ton of sense to go get a wily veteran like a Dick Sherman if you're the Saints, if you're going to be playing a bunch of zone coverage. Last time I checked, they played a good amount of man coverage in New Orleans. There's some zone, absolutely there is, but with Marshawn Lattimore on one side, you want him locked up. You don't want him playing a ton of zone. So I don't really know if he's a great fit in New Orleans or not. Maybe they can be a little bit scheme diverse there and change some things up to fit him. We'll see what happens. I just know that Dick Sherman is definitely going into the twilight years of his career, so I don't know how much interest he's going to conjure up on the free agent market. Offensive tackle Mitchell Schwartz is available. Now, again, I don't know if this is a guy that's going to even want to play. There were reports of him conjuring ideas of retirement. He was thinking about, do I want to do this? You know, I've hit the pinnacle with the Kansas City Chiefs. I've made some good money in this league. Do I really feel like putting my body through this? He dealt with an injury-riddled 2020 in which he didn't play hardly any. And when we start having discussions about your neck or your back, those are the two that do it for me. And you could throw in hip. That's a close third. But when we start having conversations about your back and your neck, that's when you got to start thinking about, you know, and concussions, obviously, they're in a conversation all to themselves. When we're talking about your neck or your back or your hip, that's when we got to start kind of thinking about, what does my long-term health look like? I want to run around with my grandkids when I'm 52 and not be, you know, sitting in a chair because it's hard for me to move around and I've already had 8 surgeries. Like, that's when we got to start having those discussions. He's got back issues. I don't know if he's going to play or not, but if he decides he wants to play, still one of the best right tackles in all of football. So we'll see what happens with Mitchell Schwartz. Desmond King II This was a guy that was on the outside looking in of my top 23, but he's one of the better nickel corners when he's at his best, which we don't really know. What Desmond King you're going to get. I love the fact that he gives you special teams value, but this is a guy that has some nickel experience. It's hard to find good nickel corners in this league. You throw in the fact that this guy gives you some special teams value as one of the premier punt returners in the league. If he can get back to what he was in his rookie season as a punt returner and as a corner, there could be something here with Desmond King II. Right now, he's looking for work. I just assumed he was going to go back to Tennessee. They traded for him. I just thought they were going to hang on to him. And he may ultimately go back to Tennessee, but I was shocked that didn't already take place. We'll see what happens with him. Speaking of Tennessee, Adoree Jackson, cornerback from the Titans, former first-round pick out of USC, was released by the Tennessee Titans. He's a guy that has tremendous upside, but he has been, to me, a bit of a disappointment in Tennessee. He's had his ups, his downs as a corner. When he's good, he's really good. When he's bad, he can be really bad. And I thought they would get more out of him as a return man. He was a dynamic returner at USC, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't materialized in the NFL. I don't think he's popped one for a touchdown yet. He's been close several times. I don't think he's actually popped one for a touchdown to this point of his career. So that's something that I don't think he has really taken full advantage of. And maybe that is something he can do at his next stop, or maybe they'll just be interested wherever he lands with him just playing the cornerback position for them. So injuries were an issue for him last season. So that's something else to take into consideration. Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver. I'm not the highest on him. I've made that abundantly clear, but there is value in Juju Smith-Schuster. He's tough. He's physical as a run blocker. He'll do the dirty work. He'll catch the football over the middle of the football field. We've seen him take big hits. We know he's not afraid to go anywhere on the field. He's a solid guy, run after catch. There's a lot of things he brings to the table. What he doesn't bring is speed. That's not his forte. And so at 24 years old, the upside is immense. I think you know what you're getting with Juju Smith-Schuster. Some people are turned off by the off-the-field antics and the TikTok and the dancing and things of that nature. But when it's business time, when he's in between the white lines, this guy plays hard. And there's something to be said about that. He'll find a home. I think much like Kenny Golladay and Will Fuller and some of these guys that thought that they were going to have massive paydays waiting on them in free agency, I think he got a rude awakening. I think that number that he was looking at, $16.5 million or so, 17, I think he's coming to grips with the fact that that's just not coming this year. And maybe it'll be there for him next year. If he signs a one-year deal and he goes somewhere and he balls out of control and he has 1,263 yards and 10 touchdowns, then maybe he can hit the market again, and maybe that $17, $18 million will be waiting on him. But right now, that's not the case. And so he's got a decision to make. A multi-year deal, that's 11.5, 12, 12.5, 13, or a one-year deal that's, 12, 13, and hit the market again next year. And see if you can't get that 16, 17, maybe even $18 million deal. So we'll see what happens there. Antonio Brown, to me, this one isn't very interesting at the wide receiver position because he's either in Tampa or he's nowhere for me. I don't think anybody trusts this guy to stay on the straight and narrow. And I don't think anybody feels like this guy is truly worth the headache, except Tampa Bay, and they've got Tom Brady to keep him in line and in check. So I just don't see how anybody says, Antonio Brown's really interesting at this point of his career at 32 years old. I don't think after the Raiders fiasco, I think he burned about every bridge out there that wasn't attached to Tom Brady. Every opportunity he's had since then has been on a team with Tom Brady, whether it be in New England or in Tampa Bay. The Seahawks at one point were interested. The bridge there was Russell Wilson. And so I think that's the only other place that he could end up is in Seattle. I don't know if they're really even interested in him at this point. So I don't even really consider him a guy that's going to go anywhere other than Tampa, maybe Seattle, if they want to do that. And I can't see anybody looking to pay him any real money either. And at number 10, is Jadeveon Clowney. I talked about this guy. He's the final player left in my top 23 at 21 left. Look, Jadeveon Clowney really should have been put in jail for what he did last year to the Tennessee Titans. That was stealing, essentially what he did. I don't remember what the exact total was. I think it was something like $14 million. Whatever it was, he stole. And I get it. That can't be something too far from the front of your mind when you're talking Jadeveon Clowney. But if you're thinking about Clowney and you really are intrigued by Clowney, I don't know what he's looking to get, and I don't know what his realistic expectations are, but if I'm looking to sign Jadeveon Clowney, it's not going to be a lucrative, fully guaranteed deal. It's going to be a minimal base, so something like $6-7 million base salary, and then you can get up to 14-15 with incentives. One is going to definitely be playtime incentives, meaning percentage of snaps taken on the season. So if you don't take at least 80% of our snaps this year, you're not going to get this extra $1.5 million. If you don't get at least 6.5 sacks, you're not going to get this extra $1 million, or, it might be 10 or whatever. Like a lot of those, extra millions of dollars in that deal. When we hear, hey, this guy signed a 1 year, $7.5 million deal that can get up to $12 million. That's the kind of deal I'll be signing Jadeveon Clowney to, with a bunch of bonuses and incentives that he could reach if he's able to hit a couple of landmarks throughout the course of the year. Health being one of them, performance being the other. So there's a lot there with Jadeveon Clowney. The sack numbers don't support him getting paid a ton of money. I've always advocated for him as a guy that you just can't look at sack totals to really determine his true value. He's a game wrecker. He's a guy that's just a disruptor. You hand it off and he's in the backfield. He beat the guard that's pulling to the spot, and now that running back has to bow around him, and next thing you know, here comes the corner and it's a 3-yard loss. Like, that's the stuff. He didn't make the tackle, but he made the play. That's Jadeveon Clowney. Somebody's going to be interested in him, but I don't know if he gets the kind of money that he thinks he's going to get after last season's fiasco. So I have a few super chats. I want to go ahead and take those real quick before we move on. This first super chat is from Vincent Coe. Thank you for the super chat, Vincent Coe. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Vincent Coe writes, Seahawks signed Witherspoon and Gerald Everett and traded for Gabe Jackson. Wow, I'm not used to them being this active early. Thoughts on their fit? I love Ahkello Witherspoon coming out of Colorado. I soured on him a bit in San Francisco. I don't know what happened to his confidence, but we know that we see it all the time. You guy comes in here, he's uber confident. He gets roasted and toasted a couple of times, picks up a few pass interference penalties, and all of a sudden the confidence and the swagger he came into the league with is gone. He just needs to be built back up. And he's 6'3" with long vines for arms, and the guy can run. I think he can be salvaged. So I love the fit in Seattle. I told you, nobody maximizes talent, especially in corners. More so than any other position, nobody maximizes the talent of cornerbacks more than the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, they've gotten more cornerbacks paid big money that probably didn't deserve it than anybody else in the league. Going all the way back the first time around to Brandon Browner and then to Byron Maxwell. They've done this over and over again. I mean, hell, what's the nickel corner? Justin Coleman got him a big deal. He just got cut. Now he's playing for pennies on the dollar for the Miami Dolphins on a 1-year deal. They've gotten more corners paid big money than anybody else. If anybody can fix a talented, broken corner, it's the Seattle Seahawks. So I love Ahkello Witherspoon's fit in Seattle. I love Gerald Everett. I thought he was one of the guys that just missed out on my list of bargains for free agency, because everybody was talking about Hunter Henry, and rightfully so. And then if you weren't talking Hunter Henry, you were probably talking about Jonnu Smith. But after those guys, the next name for me was Gerald Everett. And obviously, Gerald Everett is a lesser known name. He played behind Tyler Higbee with the Rams. I talked about him already as being a guy that was drafted to be Sean McVay's version of Jordan Reed. It never really materialized, but that was the thought process when they signed him. And so I thought he could be a good bargain deal for someone. And lo and behold, here are the Seattle Seahawks. And what have I always told you guys? I repeat this all the time because it rings true. Nobody knows your stuff better than somebody in the division, aka family members know what your stuff looks like better than anybody else because they've seen it up close and personal. So it's never a surprise when you see a Mike Hilton jump from Pittsburgh to Cincinnati. Why? Because the Bengals have seen Mike Hilton up close and personal for the last 4 or 5 years. They know what his game looks like. They're a family member and they know. Okay, so this makes a ton of sense to see a guy like Ahkello Witherspoon from the 49ers that they've been eyeballing from a ways away, but said, hey, we see what he has. Let's bring him here and see if we can't fix him. Same thing with Gerald Everett. Rams tight end. He's had a couple of solid games against us. We know the guy's talented. Let's bring him in here. We know Russ. Every year the Seahawks are looking for a new tight end. They sign these guys to one-year deals. The last guy that got a multi-year contract from them was Jimmy Graham. Outside of that, it's been a bunch of steady diets of one-year contracts for these tight ends, whether it's Greg Olsen last year or now Gerald Everett. We see these guys just funneling in and out of Seattle, and here comes another guy here in Gerald Everett, and I love this move for Seattle as well. And then Gabe Jackson, to me, is a really good football player at the guard position. And we heard Russell Wilson talking about wanting them to fix the offensive line. This is their attempt to try and help, fortify the offensive line and give Russ a little bit of the help up front that he needs so he's not running around for his life. So that's a good move too. So the Seahawks have been semi-aggressive and as you mentioned, you being a Seahawks fan, you know this. They're not shopping early. They're usually letting all of the big money spenders come in, shop, and get all of their items. And once the crowd dies down in the store, that's when they come in, go straight to the back, and pick up a couple of clearance rack items and come out. And they want to go through the self-checkout because they want to see what they have. They want to see how much it costs. And if they need to put something back, they want to be able to put it back. And so they don't want a bunch of lines. They don't want to stand there for 20, 30 minutes. They want to get in, they want to get out, and they usually want to come out feeling like they got a few deals. They're not shopping at the Nike store. They're shopping at the Nike clearance outlet. And for them to be grabbing a couple of items that you feel like, man, are they sure this is supposed to be at the clearance outlet? This feels like this is supposed to be at the regular Nike factory outlet, not the clearance store. They got some good items there. I think, Witherspoon is intriguing. I think Gerald Everett is a good football player, so I'm not worried about what he's going to do in Seattle. Witherspoon is the wild card, and I've said this already. Nobody gets the most out of corners quite like the Seattle Seahawks, and he fits their DNA profile, long, rangy, athletic corner. He should fit right in. Got another super chat. This one is from Tony P56. Thank you for the super chat. Tony P56, who writes, I wasn't high on Curtis Samuel or Fitztragic coming into free agency, but I'm getting excited pairing Curtis with Terry again at that price. I'm at the point where I'm like, look, it's better than nothing. You guys know how I felt about Curtis Samuel. He tore us a new asshole last year. And let's not act like this dude isn't super talented. And I've made that abundantly clear. Really talented football player. You know who I wanted, though. I wanted Corey Davis. That was the guy I wanted. But he might be the perfect fit for this offense. He might be exactly what we're looking for. And his versatility is something that you can't coach. This guy had 30 some odd carries last year. He had another probably 50, 60 grabs last season. And when you looked up, this man had over 1,200 yards of all-purpose offense. So when you're talking about a player the caliber of Curtis Samuel and what he's able to bring to the table, I mean, I always just go back to the game against Washington in Week 16. Dude had over 170 all-purpose yards against us. Had a 40 or 50-yard run, had a 45-yard catch, had a couple of big catch and runs. And when we looked up, the dude had like 7 touches for 170 yards. And you're like, damn. Or it might have been like 140. Whatever. He kicked our ass. The bottom line, okay? So we know what this guy can do. And he's only getting better. He's just scratching the surface. He's starting to come into his own. We have to utilize him correctly. Like, I hate when people talk about versatility of players and then they don't utilize that versatility. Like, people get hung up on Kendall Fuller's a very versatile corner. And I say, okay, he's versatile. What's good is versatility if you're just going to play him as a boundary corner? Because when he was at safety last year for the limited snaps, he got his ass whooped. He was terrible at safety last year. So, I mean, if you're not going to kick him inside in obvious passing situations to the nickel and him actually perform well there, what the hell does versatility matter if you're not getting actual versatility out of the player? Just saying that they offer versatility doesn't mean a damn thing if they're not actually giving you the versatility that people speak of. So with Curtis Samuel, if we're not going to maximize his versatility like the Panthers did last year with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator and Matt Rule as the head coach, if we're not going to line him up in the backfield and give him a couple of carries, if we're not going to hit him with some jet sweeps, if we're not going to get him vertically deep, if we're not going to have him running a couple of short routes, if we're not going to show the full spectrum of what he can be as a football player, we're just going to bring him here to have him run a steady diet of shallow crosses and never give him the football on the jet sweep like we did with Steven Sims Jr. last year. If he's just going to be Steven Sims in this offense, well, a steady diet of shallow crosses and a couple of corner routes and then, every 4 games actually hand him the ball on the jet sweep, then this deal, even though it's a really good deal for the price, I'm excited about the price tag attached to him. I thought he would, because I knew he was going to cost this much. So it's not about us getting a great deal. I'm surprised that with everything happening, that I'm actually surprised his price tag wasn't a little bit lower, to be honest with you, but it's what I thought he was going to cost. So I don't mind paying market value for good stuff. Okay, I'm not the guy that's frugal and I want a deal on every single damn thing. If I know this is of high quality, I don't need you to give me a discount on it. All right, if it just happens to be on sale, great. But I will pay market value for a good quality item. And Curtis Samuel, from the outside looking in, seems to be a good quality item. So I'm not upset about the price tag. Although in this market, looking at Corey Davis getting 12.5, which I thought Samuel would cost more than Corey Davis, I was actually surprised. We got him for less than Corey Davis. In any event, this is how much I thought he was going to cost. Remember, I said Corey Davis, you could probably get him for 9, 10, maybe 11 million. He ended up getting 12.5. I told you Samuel was on the ledger above him. I said he's probably going to be 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that general vicinity. He ends up being 11. So you feel good about that. I think it's 11.5 when you sit down and actually crunch the numbers. But I love the deal for Curtis Samuel. I love that they've infused this roster with more speed, which you can never have enough of. But that wasn't my number one option at receiver. And he wasn't my number 1 or my number 2 for that matter. But I'll take it. Beggars can't be choosers. And look, we were starving for some energy, life, and speed to be injected into this offense. I still don't see him as a true number 2 wide receiver. That was my problem. But number 2, 3, 6, 7, 10, if he's putting up the type of numbers he put up last year in Carolina, I don't give a shit what we classify him as. Number 2, a number 7, a number 12, with fries and supersize my drink, I don't really give a shit. If he's putting up the kind of numbers and he's staying healthy that he did last year, sign me up. So we'll see what happens with Curtis Samuel. Tony P56, double up, thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Tony P56 for doubling up, who writes, did I miss the tight end segment? Thoughts on David Njoku? I don't know about David Njoku and if he's even a free agent. I haven't seen his name anywhere. I think he might have one more year left on his contract, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's got a 5th-year option that they picked up, I believe. The Browns picked up his 5th-year option. Let's see. Yep, the Browns picked up his 5th-year option, so that's why you haven't heard anything about David Njoku, and that's why he would have been one of the top free agent targets for a lot of teams, including Washington, who was interested in trading for him once upon a time. So trust me, had he been available, there would have been a lot of conversation about David Njoku, but the reason you haven't heard anything is because he's not available. So that's why you haven't heard anything about him. And there really aren't many tight ends left. I think the last noteworthy tight end remaining in free agency now is the ex-Minnesota Vikings tight end Kyle Rudolph. I think it's the last big name tight end. The rest of the guys are journeymen, specific role tight ends, like he's a blocking tight end. He's a third tight end, or this is a guy that, you're not looking to have 30 catches from type of guys. Or there may be one or two developmental guys like Logan Thomas last year for Washington that may be out there that no one's really talking about, but I don't think there's too many of those guys out there either. So Kyle Rudolph is it. And then if you don't get your hands on Kyle Rudolph, then you have to then trade for Zach Ertz. And I don't think a Zach Ertz deal has been consummated yet. Yeah, so he's still out there, and you still have to trade for him. And I think teams are kind of waiting on that. What'll be interesting to see is if the Eagles get a deal for him prior to the draft, or if they get it done now, or post-draft. Because if I'm a team in need of a tight end, while Zach Ertz is very appealing, if I can get me a young guy in the draft, why do I need Zach Ertz? I mean, obviously, there's something to be said about where you are in your process. If you're a team that thinks you can compete for a Super Bowl, I don't know if a young tight end comes in and gives you the savviness you need right now. But if we're talking about saving some money and getting cheap labor and having the potential to have this tight end grow with your offense, I don't know if you really are interested in going and getting Zach Ertz right now. You stick around, wait to see what happens, because the Eagles, I think, are asking for a little bit more than teams may be willing to give up at this point for Ertz. So you just wait to see what happens in the draft. If there are a couple of tight ends that tickle your fancy, if one of them falls into your lap, you're good on Zach Ertz. If none of them fall into your lap and now you need a tight end, then maybe the Eagles then get something. And at that point, I think you'd put the Eagles in a position of power. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. I think they'll get a deal done prior to the draft. That's just my guess, but we will see. Got another super chat. This one is from my man John Livingston. Thank you for the super chat, JL Smooth. Greatly appreciate you. My man John writes, can't remember if you had him on your list, but Sammy Watkins is super underrated in my opinion. It's all a matter of if he stays healthy. Dude is dangerous. He wasn't on my top 23 list, but I've talked Sammy Watkins multiple times this offseason. Samuel Watkins, as you've mentioned, is extremely dangerous. I wouldn't term him underrated because people know what he is as a football player at this point of his career. The biggest question isn't his talent, and really, it's never been his talent. ever since he was drafted out of Clemson in the first round by the Buffalo Bills. Hell, the Bills traded up to get him. It's never been about talent. It's about staying healthy with Sammy Watkins. And, you know, I've always said he was the X factor for the Chiefs. Problem was he was never damn healthy for the Chiefs. He'd play 5 weeks, then he'd miss 4 weeks, he'd come back for 2 weeks, then he'd be out again with a hamstring, and then you wouldn't see him for like a month and a half. And that's the problem with Sammy Watkins. When he's healthy, you could easily get 4 catches for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's Sammy Watkins. Explosive, dynamic, playmaker, yards after the catch, everything you're looking for, you know. But it doesn't take much for him to tweak a hamstring, jam a toe. Now he's got turf toe, turn an ankle, and you don't see him for a month or a month and a half. And at this point of his career, somebody's going to pay him, you know, $8, $9, maybe $10 million max on a deal. But if I'm signing Sammy Watkins, same thing applies. I'll sign you, but your base salary and what the actual contract can get up to are going to be two different things. You're not getting a fully guaranteed $7 million. You're going to get a contract that's, you know, $6.5 million that can get up to 11 with incentives. And most of that is going to be tied to your performance and health, percentage of snaps played, because he's not going to hit it. He's not going to hit it because he's not going to play enough games. And that's the problem with Samuel Watkins. But I talked about him going to a team that's a veteran team that's close to winning. Like, if I'm Sammy Watkins, I don't want to go play. Like, I thought a place like Cleveland would have been perfect for him. But they re-signed Rashard Higgins. I thought they would have looked for a veteran, like Marvin Jones or Samuel Watkins. I thought they would be in the market for a guy like that. A little bit more consistent, somebody they knew they could rely on. Like a Marvin Jones would have fit more so than a Samuel Watkins, because the last thing they need is another Odell Beckham, another guy that they don't know if he's going to be healthy week to week. So I thought that's the kind of team he would go to. Like Indianapolis would be a great place for Samuel Watkins. Again, he needs to stay healthy. So a veteran team like that thinks they're close to winning, that's to me what would make the most sense for him. But he's definitely, I wouldn't term him as underrated. I just think he needs to stay healthy. He stays healthy, he's a difference maker for an offense, for sure. Taint Tostada, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Taint Tostada writes, the word that must be said is depth. Defensive line, we nasty. That's a fact, but we still need a defensive end. There is no Ryan Kerrigan backing up Sweat and Young this upcoming season. Now, you know, the thing that's going to be interesting is Ryan Kerrigan swears he can help someone as a starter. Who's giving him that opportunity? Most people see him as a situational pass rusher, much like he was in Washington, but he wasn't even, we gave him more snaps than your normal situational pass rusher. I don't know if anybody looks at him and says 32-year-old Ryan Kerrigan, yeah, we want him starting on our defensive line. I want to see what the market holds for Ryan Kerrigan. That should be pretty interesting to see if he's willing to go somewhere else to be what he was in Washington, or if he's going to actually get the role that he covets, which is that of a starter in this league. We'll see what happens with him. But depth is the key, you're right, because as we know in the NFL, it's a war of attrition each and every single year. Injuries are going to happen. It's not a matter of if you're going to have injuries. It's a matter of when and how many. And, you know, when you get ravaged at a specific position, that's when depth is really tested. So having depth is really key in this league. You don't want a massive drop-off from your starters to the next group of guys that'll come in if something should happen to your starters. Jordan C, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jordan C writes, you the man, Louie. First time super. I keep hearing about all the safeties. When do we pick one up in the draft? Is the second pick Jay Holland too early? Keep it up, bro. I think they're in the market for a safety. I think they like what they have at safety, but I think they view what they have at safety as depth. I don't know if they feel like they've got a true starter. And you could argue that's the same level of thought on the offensive line, but I contend, And I don't know if any Washington fans out there were paying attention to this, but they tendered and brought back the tackle that they traded for, David Sharp, last year. They brought him back. So I don't see them feeling like, I keep hearing that if Christian Darrisaw is there, you take him at 19. He's a steal. I don't know if they view offensive tackle as a position that they need to upgrade at this current moment. With, Cornelius Lucas there and another year of Jaron Christian, and they just brought back, again, if you were thinking you needed to do something, why are you bringing back David Sharp? You got Morgan Moses. That's 4 tackles right there. Like, I don't see them drafting another guy and inserting him into the mix. I just don't. I could be wrong. I just don't see them, and that doesn't speak to them potentially drafting a tackle in the 3rd round. I just don't see them spending 19 overall on tackle. I think they look at safety as more of a position that they could use an upgrade than they do the offensive tackle position. So I think safety could be in play, early in this draft. I don't think it'll be at 19. I could see safety being a priority at 51 in the 2nd round, or even in the 3rd round, so we'll see. I don't know. And I wouldn't put it past them to try to sign Anthony Harris. We've been sniffing around, the safety position, and our name was tied to Anthony Harris multiple times in the offseason. Him not getting the money that he thought he was going to get, and maybe that price comes down, and maybe Washington's watching that situation closely, and then he starts saying, all right, man, just get me a deal. I didn't think it would be this hard, and I would have to come down, but I'm at the point now, just get me a deal. And Washington's like, hey, man, now you speaking my language. Now you speaking my language. Come ride with us. So we'll see what happens. I think I got another super chat, and I do. This next one is from my man John Livingston. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, John Livingston. Greatly appreciate you, my man John Livingston. Writes, you see the report that an anonymous offensive coach, when asked about Sam Darnold, says, he stinks, bro. Jets are down bad, and I'm a fan of Darnold. Yeah, I tweeted about this, John, yesterday. I got a nice chuckle out of there aren't many things that I see from reporters, people that actually get paid to cover teams, because they're so serious a lot of times. They don't have a sense of humor. Their job is to report the news and report stories and, even give us some insider information. So they don't often inject humor into that. So, a lot of the times when I'm laughing on socials, it's when I'm talking to you guys, when I'm chopping it up with somebody and they put a GIF or some kind of meme, or we're just talking and somebody says something funny. That's when I love to laugh. So that's normally when I get my fix, is when I'm talking to you guys. Rarely does it come from an insider or a beat reporter, but when I saw that, man, I could do nothing but laugh. I mean, that was a gut buster for me. I spent like 3 minutes having to compose myself, because first of all, it's a young coach, whomever they talk to, because they're not throwing bro at the end of that. That, like, a 57-year-old coach isn't throwing bro in at the end. So either it's a young coach, or it's Dan Campbell. Somebody said, it's Dan Campbell, which I find it hilarious, but Dan Campbell strikes me as a guy that would throw bro at the end, okay? It wasn't Dan Campbell. I'm not putting that on him. But the fact that somebody was like, no. And this is the thing that you guys don't understand. When personnel, staff members, and scouts, when they're talking amongst each other, this is how they talk. Like, no, man, that guy stinks, man. Like how we talk to one another, They don't have to keep it politically correct when they're speaking amongst each other. So to hear somebody say, no, he stinks, bro. Like, I could do nothing but laugh. I feel bad for Sam Darnold. That wasn't an ideal situation he was put into, but I was never a Sam Darnold fan, so I'm not going to go to the ends of the earth to defend him. He wasn't good with the Jets. He had his moments. There is talent there, and I've acknowledged that, and I've talked about that, but at the end of the day, like, they want a first. He's not worth the first round pick. Nothing I've seen screams, hey, we got to part ways with a 1. I'm not even willing to give you a conditional 1. Like with Carson Wentz and the Eagles. Not looking to give you a conditional pick that could turn into a first rounder. You going to take this 2 or you going to get out of my face? Period. End of discussion. So I think at this point, the value for Sam Darnold is going down. The fact that nobody traded for him and all these quarterbacks that were out here found new homes, I think that the window of opportunity for them to move him was before this process got underway and teams found other options. They effed up because you had teams desperate for an upgrade that were out there that would have given you something if you were willing to just take something instead of being greedy. Now you've backed yourself into a corner where you may end up having to eat that and having to hold on to Sam or taking a lot less. You might have to take a day 3 pick for Sam Darnold now. I think you could have gotten a day 2, a second or a third. You might get strong-armed into giving up, having to take a 4 or 5 for Sam Darnold, which is asinine for a former top 7 pick in the draft. Top 5, wherever he went. I think he was like the 4th overall pick or whatever the case may be. You don't get 3rd, you don't get 4th or 5th rounders for guys like that. You usually get a 2nd rounder for a guy that's still on his rookie deal, even though he's been disappointing to this point of his career. So, yeah, I saw it. I got a good laugh out of it. I retweeted it. It was funny to me. So, thank you for that super chat, JL Smooth. Got another super chat. This one is from Corey Evans. Thank you for the super chat, Corey Evans, who writes, get a good budget tight end like Rudolph and the 2 Buckeyes on the outside. Our 12 personnel play action will be amazing. I like Kyle Rudolph. I was interested when he was released by the Vikings. I've talked to Vikings fans. My man Nick at Night is a staunch Vikings fan, and he said, look, he's still got some gas left in the tank, man. He still can play ball. So I would love to kick the tires on Kyle Rudolph. The question is, does Kyle Rudolph want to come to Washington? I make fun of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I talk about how Fitty isn't a guy that I necessarily want starting for my favorite team, but he's a name, and his name resonates around the league better than that of Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke. So Kyle Rudolph, I don't think is going to be lured to Washington because of Ryan Fitzpatrick, but it does make it a lot easier to pitch free agent wide receivers and tight ends when Ryan Fitzpatrick is there, even if it's only for a year. So I don't know if he's interested in coming to Washington or not. He hasn't won a Super Bowl. He'd like to win a Super Bowl. That's not happening, more likely than not, in Washington in a year or 2. And so maybe that factors into his decision-making process. If I'm the Indianapolis Colts, a guy like Kyle Rudolph makes a ton of sense for a team like that we know is interested in acquiring a veteran tight end. So to me, that's where a guy like Kyle Rudolph would end up, somewhere like that. But we'll see what ultimately ends up happening. Right now, I want to take a quick second to ask you guys to subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe if you haven't done that already. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. You don't know when these live streams are going to happen. Case in point, i.e. tonight, okay? 10:20. You had no clue until you saw the stream pop up in your notifications and, oh, he's going live. Okay, I might check him out for a little bit. So turn that notification bell on, and obviously, if you haven't hit the like button, please do that. I love the fact that I didn't have to beg you guys to get over 100 tonight. We're already at 111 likes. So big ups to all of you out there that hit that like button already in advance. For those of you who haven't hit the like button, there's over 430 of you out there. Please hit the like button and support your man Louie T and the Louie T Network. So thank you guys in advance for that. Let's go to the next super chat, if there is a next super chat, and I believe there is a super chat And I want to thank my man Corey Evans too, because play action fake could get really nasty with two speedsters on the outside. And again, to me, Curtis Samuel is more of a slot receiver. I think he does his best work from inside, not outside. So again, 12 personnel could be lethal in this offense, you know. And as I've mentioned, when you start putting that kind of package together, you need another tight end though. You know what I mean? You need another tight end, but our best personnel was 21 personnel last year with 2 backs on the field because we didn't have another tight end that really scared anybody. You add another tight end to the mix, and now the 12 personnel looks really enticing and juicy. Okay, but we'll see what happens. Ultimately, you can get a guy in the draft, you can get a guy in free agency. I said all along we need 2 guys, but I haven't been including Thaddeus Moss in my thought process, and maybe, just maybe, Thaddeus Moss, he might not be TE2, but he might be tight end 3 for all I know. So maybe we only need 1 tight end. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but I was intrigued by him as an undrafted free agent last year. I'm still intrigued by him. Nothing's changed. I told you he wasn't all that great. Everybody was all excited. I told you I just wanted to see. Okay? He's not a great athlete. He's got tremendous hands, though. I'd like to see. Because I just need him to be tight end 2 or 3. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. So we'll see what happens. But thank you for that super chat, Corey. Corey Evans. Got a super chat here from Robert Parrish. Thank you for the super chat, Robert Parrish, who writes, Lou, of our wide receivers that were on IR last year, i.e. Harmon, IG, who do you see Ron keeping? All of them. Again, I told you that AGG's not getting cut. They just drafted him last year. So barring any kind of catastrophe where he gets injured, they won't place him on IR or anything like that. He'll be on the roster and he'll get an opportunity. I told you last year was like a red shirt for him. Harmon is interesting because they didn't draft him. This new brass, Ron was a part of the process of drafting AGG last year. So he's got life because of that. Harmon wasn't a part of that. Okay? Ron had nothing to do with that. He inherited Harmon. He did not draft him. So again, Harmon's got to come in, and Ron has spoken about Harmon and talked very profusely about how dedicated he has been and how hard he's worked to get healthy, and Ron appreciates that. So he's already done some work to kind of indebt himself to Ron. However, he's going to have to prove that he's better than Cam Sims in order to make the roster, because as we've talked about, now you got Terry, now you got Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Now you got AGG, and you've got Harmon, and you've got Steven Sims, and you've got Cam Sims, and you've got a bunch of guys that they brought in last year that they were working with. I saw that Robert Foster signed with the Dolphins, so he's gone. But, you know, the list goes on and on and on. I feel like right now, Steven Sims Jr. is the odd man out. Right now. And I think AGG, Harmon, Sims, Terry, and Samuel are your 5 receivers right now. I hope I'm not forgetting someone, because I tend to do that. But I feel confident that I got everybody. Terry McLaurin. I don't like, Isaiah Wright. I'm not a fan of Isaiah Wright. But, again, I don't know. They could keep 6 receivers for all I know. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. Of those receivers, I think Harmon and AGG are both going to be on the roster. That's what you asked me, and that's what I think. I think they're both going to be there when it's all said and done. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Chauncey Davis, greatly appreciate you, who writes, Lou, I know this is off track, but what defense were we in against Tampa Bay? Jack, never again. So they got cute. Remember, I talked about us just do the things that we're comfortable doing. They got cute on a couple of plays, especially one early in the game. The first touchdown of the game, Antonio Brown up the sideline. Nobody was home. They did that stupid inverted cover 2 shit that I said we didn't need to do because we had already blown that several times throughout the course of the season. Once against the Lions, most notably, that went for a touchdown. Like, don't do that anymore. They did it again, and there was nobody home, and Antonio Brown gets an easy walk-in touchdown. There were similar things like that. And then we just played some straight-up man, and we got beat. You know, Darby got beat by Chris Godwin on a 3rd down across the field. I don't know. He might have even scored a touchdown on that catch and run. It was definitely a 1st down on a 3rd down. And then one of their tight ends beat the shit out of us. Cameron Brate just destroying us in man-to-man coverage. We had nobody that could run with him. So they tried some zone, but, you know, against Brady, you feel like, look, he's seen all the zones. You're not going to confuse him. The best you can do is play some man, play tight man coverage, get into some receivers early, throw them off their routes, and hope that the pressure gets there before Brady can unload the football. It didn't work. It did not work. So there is that as well. And there were a couple of times we were soft in zone coverage. You know, I can remember a couple of times. It's like look, they were gashing us on early downs with the run, and you finally do a good job on a run on a 1st down. I think Deron Payne knifes into the backfield. It's a 2-yard loss. It's 2nd and 12, and you're feeling good. And then we give up a simple check down underneath to the running back over the ball, and they get like 8 or 9, and you're like, that's bullshit, guys. Like, you worked so hard to get in a 2nd and long, and you give up that shit. So we weren't good defensively that day. We didn't get pressure, and they picked us apart. To go back a bit, but got a super chat here from Jordan Like the GOAT. Thank you for the super chat, Jordan Like the GOAT, who writes, whose receivers room are you taking, Giants or Washington football team? If the Giants get Kenny Golladay, I'm taking theirs, because at that point you've got Golladay, you've got Sterling Shepard, you have the kid from Auburn, Slayton, Darius Slayton, and then you would have John Ross as well. That's a good 4 solid options to get the football to, if you ask me. So I would take the Giants wide receiver room over ours at this moment. I think we have, right now, without Golladay, we have the better room. With Golladay, they have the better room. He's the tipping point right now. He would tip the scales in their favor, if you ask me. So they're going to work hard to try to get him to sign on the dotted line. And if he does, I think that gives them the advantage over us in the wide receiver department. I think it would put us 3rd in the division in the receiver department, behind Dallas, who's number 1. The Giants would be 2 at that point, and then we would be 3rd, and the Eagles would bring up the rear. If they don't get him, I think we're 2nd behind Dallas. So we'll see. I think Golladay is going to ultimately sign in New York. Sounds like he wants to be a Giant. So we'll see what happens, and if that gets done here in a bit. Anyhow, let's see if there are any new developments. And normally you guys are really good about, if somebody signs, about letting me know. So I don't think we've missed anything, because you guys, like I said, you're all over it. Bengals are signing Larry Ogunjobi, one of my favorite defensive linemen in the league. Again, another family member eyeballing another family member stuff. Cincinnati eyeballing the Cleveland Browns defensive lineman and snatching him up. They did it with the Steelers nickel corner, Mike Hilton. Now they're doing it again. I told you, we see it all the time. We just talked about the Seahawks eyeballing some stuff in the division and signing Ahkello Witherspoon from the 49ers and Gerald Everett from the Rams. We see it all the time. Matter of fact, the Lions just signed another ex-Green Bay Packer last year. If you remember, they signed Geronimo Allison from the Green Bay Packers. He sat out due to COVID-19, decided to opt out of the season. So he'll be back this year for the Lions. And then they went and signed Williams, the running back that was backing up Aaron Jones from the Packers. They signed him in Detroit as well. So again, a lot of times it's not hard. It's not rocket science. We see this guy all the time. We know what he's capable of. We're going to sign him. Anyway, I digress. So, got a super chat here from Kevin the PRF. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin the PRF, who writes, changed my mind on Williams. Glad Washington football team didn't break the bank. His signing reminds me of Redskins' entire free agency period from 98 to 07. I was shocked at the amount of money he got. I thought he was going to get like $80 million on a 4-year deal. Remember, $20 million was the number that everybody was talking about when he first came back. And, that's what he wanted from Washington. And everybody was like, no way, $20 million, are you crazy? But he played well. He showed that he could still do it at a high level. And so I figured they'd open up the wallet and break the man off. I didn't expect it to look like that. Now, I don't know the exact numbers. The first number that you see is usually an illusion. It's not actually what he's going to get. However, that's still a big number, whether it's a real number or a fake number. It's a big number, a lot bigger than any of us thought he was going to get from any team at this point of his career. And keep in mind, the man's 32 years old. This isn't 27-year-old Trent Williams going into the prime of his career. It's 32-year-old Trent Williams still playing at a high level. Don't get it twisted. But for how much longer? We don't know. It's hard to say. Bottom line is, I'm glad that that Washington they weren't even interested. And I told you he wasn't coming back here. And I was okay with that. I didn't want them to sign him. And I told you, I don't think they view offensive tackle as a massive need. So they weren't going to spend that kind of money on him anyway. Got another super chat. This one is from Clumsy Jedi 26. Thank you for the super chat, Clumsy Jedi 26. Clumsy Jedi 26 writes, do you think Washington is done buying in free agency? No, I don't. Now, have they already purchased all of their big ticket items? Maybe. I can't say that with 100% certainty because I still think they're interested in Anthony Harris, the safety. But if you ask me, are they done making big purchases? Yes. They made the purchase at receiver that we thought they were going to make, and they made a purchase at cornerback, which we knew they were going to have to make, whether it was keeping their own or going out and spending to close up a hole that was going to be created by not bringing back Ronald Darby. So I told you I didn't think they were going to be over aggressive. I would have liked them to be a little bit more aggressive than they've been. But I think they've done really well for themselves in free agency to this point. Upgraded the cornerback position, you upgraded the wide receiver position, and that wasn't going to be very hard to do. Just signing a receiver was going to upgrade the position. It really didn't matter what that guy's name was as long as he was one of the top tier wide receiver free agents. You're going to upgrade the position because outside of Terry McLaurin, we didn't have anything last year. So it wasn't going to be hard to upgrade wide receiver. They did that. And then they got a quarterback. I don't love it. But they got a quarterback. They needed to add something to that room at the quarterback position, and they felt like Ryan Fitzpatrick was the best option. They went in that direction, and so I think they're done with the big ticket items. I think you're going to see them sign a lower tier, linebacker, maybe a tight end. It wouldn't shock me if they signed a couple of low end guys, like they did last year in free agency. I think they really want another linebacker. They're sniffing around the position, similar to a guy like Kevin Pierre-Louis. I think they're looking for a young guy that, for whatever reason hasn't gotten a great opportunity or, whatever the case may be. I think they're looking for one of those at the linebacker position, and I think they'll get that. They may go and get a safety. I still contend that Malik Hooker is the guy that I would like them to, again, you can get him for a song. You see what the 1-year prove-it deals are looking like this offseason? It's 1 year, $2.5 million. Just go get Malik Hooker, and give him a chance. And again, just like Sean Davis last year when we signed Sean Davis, if it doesn't work, you cut him before the season starts. Like, you don't have to have a big commitment to this guy where he has to make the football team. So, question, Do you think they're done in free agency? The answer to that for me is no. I don't think they're done. I don't think they're going to be many more expensive items, although I wouldn't say that they're done in that department either. I wouldn't rule it out, but more likely than not, they are done with the big ticket items. I don't think they're done overall, though. Colton Wheeler, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Colton Wheeler writes, I don't know if you remember me dropping a super chat a few live streams ago saying that it's Fitz Magic time, and I want to apologize for speaking that into existence. My bad. Hey, look, man, you don't have to apologize for anything, okay? At that time, it was probably a joke. It's not a joke anymore, but you didn't do that, all right? And it's one thing if you speak a loss into existence or you jinx something during a game. And I'm big on that. Like, hey, I'm not going to jinx anything. I'm not going to declare victory before the battle it has been won and the war is over. But look, they were going to do what they had to do. And you weren't responsible for this one, Colton. And who knows? It may turn out to be a great thing. The best thing that has happened to this franchise in the last 3-4 years. Him coming on board and playing quarterback for us. And I could have egg all over my face. And I don't mind that. Again, if it's for the betterment of this team, I will gladly be wrong about something that I was adamant about. Gladly. If it is for the betterment of this team, I will take my medicine like a man. Or as a wise man once said, I'm a man. All right? I'm a man. I can take mine like a man. So you're good. You don't have to apologize for that. But you might be right. It might be Fitz Magic time. Oh, man. Got another super chat. This one is from Chauncey Davis. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Chauncey Davis. Greatly appreciate you. Chauncey Davis writes, Lou, how is cap money calculated? So the best I can do for you with this is essentially tell you that when you sign players to contracts, it is the job of your capologist, the guy that you have in your building that handles the dollars and cents aspect of contracts and things of that nature. It is his job to make the numbers dance. So, when you just see a guy signing a contract and you do the math, let's just go with a solid round figure like a 3-year, $30 million contract, which is what Ronald Darby got with the Denver Broncos, okay? Easy math, 3 divided by 30 is 10, or 30 divided by 3, I should say, is 10. And so most people think, oh, that's $10 million of our salary cap this year gone. Not exactly, because you can structure that deal so that he might get 16 of that fully guaranteed, okay, of that $30 million. And six of it could be upon signing. So just for signing his name on the contract, he gets $60 million wired to his account, okay? And depending on where you are, obviously taxes will be taken out. If you're in a tax-free state, then no taxes are taken out of that. Bottom line is, so he might make $16 million in year one of that contract. But they can set it up so that his base salary is only $4.5 million. So let's say you came into free agency with $35 million and you just signed Ronald Darby to a 3-year, $30 million contract, but his base salary is only $4.5 million. Well, guess what? You're only subtracting $4.5 million from the $30 million you came into free agency with. So it's not $10 million being subtracted from your cap. It's only $4.5 million because you were able to reduce his cap number to just a $4.5 million cap hit. So the cap it's not easy to explain because you can structure contracts in different ways. The only thing that's cut and dry with contracts are franchise tags, which is why Brandon Sheriff is absolutely killing us right now. Because when you look at Washington, they came into free agency as like the 3rd or 4th most salary cap friendly team in the league in terms of the amount of money available to spend. And right away, just like that, before you even got a chance to spend, 18 million of it is gone tied up in Brandon Sheriff. So right there, I think Washington at that point was at like 55. and you go from 55 just like that, you're down to 37. So, and then I looked yesterday and we were down to like 27 or something like that, which put us like somewhere in the middle of the pack in terms of cap space left. And then you sign Curtis Samuel. They're gonna organize the deal, and his cap hit might not be but $6 million this year. They find ways to be creative with that. So I don't really worry about the money. You always have to allocate enough money to sign your rookies. But those rookies are slotted, so you know how much money roundabout that you need to sign those guys. So you just look at last year, the 19th pick, how much money did he get last year? Okay, so we know we need to have that kind of money sitting around. You add that up to the 51st pick last year, so forth and so forth. And then, so you know how much money you need to have saved up to stash away for your draft picks. So, the cap, it's complicated, but it's not complicated. What is complicated is how these deals are structured. And every deal is different. There aren't many deals that look exactly the same. So that's essentially the cap in a nutshell. Hope that made sense. Barrett Downing, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, BD, my man, Barrett Downing. As always, thank you, who writes, "What up, Lou? I'm down in Mexico on vacation, but I ain't missing no Washington football team news. Keep grinding, my brother. You the man. No, you the man for checking on me from Mexico. Shame on you, first of all, for even taking the time to check for me while you're in Mexico. Man, if you don't go and relax and get you a Mai Tai and find you a lawn chair and just listen to the damn ocean waves crash into the shore, you shouldn't be checking me out. It should be here when you get back. But I commend you and applaud you for your unwavering support and for your I don't even know what to describe that. The fact that you're in Mexico and you're still thinking about the Washington football team. I know I go to Mexico in a month from now, and I'd be damned if I'm worried about anything with this team. So you are better than me, because once I get away, I get away. So I commend you for your dedication. That's the word I was looking for, your dedication to this football team. But I appreciate you. It's tough to go on vacation during a time like this. I'm going when there's not going to be much news, or at least I don't think there's going to be any news. But I get it. I totally get it, and I appreciate you nonetheless. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. My man, King of the North, writes, "Maybe we're wrong about Fitz, Lou. Cooley and Kevin are happy about him signing. I trust Cooley's opinion on quarterbacks, and he says Fitz is a top 15 quarterback and the team should consider starting him for 2 years." Well, I haven't listened. Obviously, I'm way behind on the podcast, but they've been advocating for Fitzpatrick. So I knew they were going to be excited about it. They can have their opinion. I can have mine. Look, I've never said Fitzpatrick isn't a quality NFL quarterback. He wouldn't be in the league going into his 17th season and started for 8 previous teams, and Washington potentially could be his 9th if he couldn't play. So there's no denying that. The problem for me is that the good is counteracted and counterbalanced by the bad. So you don't have usually any positive carryover. Like there's no extra left. You get 12 really good plays and then you get 11 really bad plays. And so it kind of just washes each other. And when you look up, yeah, he might have 5 more touchdown passes than interceptions, but 3 of those interceptions were backbreakers, game enders, pick sixes, shit that just really killed you in the moment. And so, look, he's played well, and they were gushing over. I remember I was listening to a podcast like 2 weeks ago where they were gushing over him in the Raiders game when he got his face yanked off and he threw the pass to Mac Hollins down the sidelines and led the Dolphins to that improbable come-from-behind victory versus the Raiders on a Saturday night. yeah, that's awesome. And you get that from him every now and again. But there are going to be some stinkers in there too. And, everybody wants to talk about all the good games and this, that, and the third, but there's some funky ones in there as well. There's there's 16 years of body of work and track record that speaks to his consistent ability to be inconsistent. And you get these people that want to talk about the last few years. Well, don't talk about forget about the 13 years prior. Just let's talk about the last 3 years. Well, no, you can't do that. And oh, by the way, he hasn't won shit in the last 3 years either. And don't talk to me about, well, if he would have started all of the games in Miami, if they wouldn't have benched him, I don't want to hear that shit. Because there were games that he started that they didn't win. Like week 1 against the New England Patriots when he threw a back-breaking interception in that game. When they had all the momentum and he throws a pick in the damn end zone. Don't talk to me about, well, if he would have started all of the games, they would have made it. If he didn't get COVID at the end of the season, they would have beat Buffalo. Bullshit. They probably would have lost that game. He probably would have thrown 3 picks in that goddamn game. So, miss me with all of that shit. The bottom line is we might be wrong. I might be wrong. I don't want to lump anybody. I don't want to drag anybody in with my bullshit. This is how I feel. Okay? I might be wrong. And Fitzpatrick might lead Washington to 12-5 this year and a division crown, and it's the best thing smoking at the quarterback position this team has seen since 2012 with Bob Griffin III. That could be the case. I'm rooting for that. I want to be wrong. 16 years of track history says I'm not, though. So I'm going to ride with the 16 years of track history that says, no, this is who he is. He's going to finesse his 9th NFL team into giving him a chance to start. That's what he's doing, finessing the hell out of y'all, because he's done it 8 times previous. But players love him. They're going to rally around him. And as everybody keeps saying, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this shit online. It's almost nauseating at this point. They're going to be an exciting team. Washington's going to be fun this year. Fun at 7-10. Whoop-diddy-doo. So, we'll see. And come on, man. Look, I don't know. I might sit down and make a list and he might be 15th on the list. Come on, though. Ryan Fitzpatrick, top 15. Like, they're just talking because they're excited. Come on, man. I listened to them a couple of weeks ago, and again, I'm way behind, so don't worry about what the hell I'm talking about. I'm talking about a podcast from like January, February. We're in March, so I'm way behind. But I was listening to a podcast, and they didn't even have Matthew Stafford in the top 10. So if Stafford's not in the top 10, how the hell is Ryan Fitzpatrick at 15? I mean, let's make sense of this. I said Matthew Stafford was my 7th best quarterback in the league. They were talking about Stafford being top half of the league. Everybody can't, this is the whole discussion on everybody can't be a first round pick. Everybody can't be a top 10 pick. We hear all these analysts and all these draft beatniks talk about this guy's a top 10 talent. This guy's going to go in the top 10. This guy's going to go in the first round. Well, they're not 64 first round picks. There are only 32 of them. They're not 20 for top 10 picks. There are only 10 of them. There can't be 23 quarterbacks in the top 15. Okay. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a top 15 quarterback in this league. Stop. He's in the top probably 25. He's probably in the top. He might even be in the top 20. He's not in the top 15. And I haven't made a list. I can sit down and make a list of quarterbacks. I guarantee you I will find 15 before I get to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I probably can bang out a list with 17 to 20 before. Now, I know I won't get through 32 or I won't get to 30 or 25 because, as we know, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio good quarterbacks to teams in this league. So I'm pretty sure I can make a list of 20 quarterbacks before I get to Ryan Fitzpatrick. Definitely 15. I know I can do that. So to have them say he's a top 15 quarterback, they're just really excited and they misspoke. But that's okay. That's their opinion. I can't tell them how to feel. There's no way you're going to sit down, bang out a list of NFL quarterbacks and not be able to get to 15 names. Now, maybe with all of the retirees, with Phillip Rivers retiring and Drew Brees retiring, that's going to open up some slots. Maybe he's able to come up a few spots and get close to 15. He's not 15, though. I still think even with those guys retiring, we could come up with a list of 15 quarterbacks that are better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. But that's for another day. The bottom line is, Let's see what he does. You know, I don't need to keep talking and harping about what his body of work says. You've seen it. You know what it is. People are excited about him. Good. I'm not here to taper anybody's excitement. That's not what I'm looking to do. I'm just looking to inject reality, because sometimes when you're excited about something, you can't see the reality of the situation. You want to talk about all the positives. You don't want to talk about negative. You'd be amazed at how many fans of the team don't want to hear any negativity. They just want to hear all good stuff. They want Larry Michael to come back and host Redskins Nation every day so they can hear all the good shit about the team. They don't want to hear anything negative. Man, you got to be positive. F that. I got to be real. That's what I got to do. That's how I sleep at night. I keep shit real. I don't know how else to act. I don't know how else to be. Now, my real might not actually turn out to be right, but that's my opinion. So I'm going to give you how I feel. But this, what I'm talking about with Ryan Fitzpatrick, these are cold, hard facts backed up by 16 years of empirical data and proof. So you can be excited. I'm excited about this team and the direction. I right now am not excited about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm sorry. And again, he'll come in, he'll have some 350-yard passing days, he'll shred some defenses if they're not very good, and he'll have some games where I'm like, man, that was pretty damn impressive. And we'll put up 38 points and we'll beat the shit out of somebody and we'll be excited. And then the following week, he'll throw 3 interceptions, we'll lose the game, and you'll say, man, that's some bullshit. That's Ryan Fitzpatrick. And look, you've been warned. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Got another super chat here from Atypical Brother. Atypical Brother. Greatly appreciate you for the super chat. Who writes, if Darrisaw is there when we pick, that's trade bait. I think Kansas City would trade with us to get that pick. We get Kansas City's first and second. What do you think? I told you I'm not opposed to anything at 19. I'm open to moving up to get a quarterback or something elite. I'm interested in moving back to, pick up more draft capital. You think you got a guy in mind and this isn't a great spot for him. Somebody wants to come up and take this pick off your hands and you move back 8 slots. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I'm all for staying at 19 and picking the best player available that fits a need, or just best player available, period, whether it fits a need or not. I'm open to anything at this point. Nothing. I'm not dead set on any one thing. So, I would definitely be on board with that. 110%. Thank you for the super chat, Atypical Brother. Calvin Krim. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man Calvin Krim writes, hey, Lou, sorry if you addressed this already. I probably didn't. A lot of times when you guys come in and say, oh, I'm sorry for being late. Hopefully you didn't address this. Normally you bringing up something I haven't talked about. Let's see if we're right again here. But after today, what's our cap situation looking like? Do we still have enough to make another splash? Yes, we have enough cap space. Plenty of cap space. We're not hurting for bread right now, okay? And I still contend if the Giants can do it, and when I say can do it, I'm referring to reach a long-term deal with a guy on a second straight franchise tag, we should be able to do it with Brandon Sheriff. I haven't given up hope. We got all the way until the middle of July to work out a long-term deal with Brandon Sheriff. They need to get that done. To me, that would clean up so much cap space. We're not hurting for cap, though. We still got enough that if we want to make another, 2 moves, we could make it and still be comfortable and still have enough cap space for the draft picks and even some smaller deals that may come about down the road. We're fine. We're not hurting for caps, but we could free up some cap by signing Brandon Sheriff to a long-term deal. That to me needs to be one of the, when everything settles down, that needs to be the next order of business. The first order of business was, hey, let's just make sure he doesn't leave. They slapped the franchise tag on him. He's already signed it, so he's not going anywhere. Now, once you got your quarterback, you got your receiver, you got a corner, okay, if you got to go out here and get some more stuff, knock yourself out, and then once we settle down, I need you to find a way to bang out this long-term deal with Brandon Sheriff. Because what that's going to do is create another $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 million worth of cap space. Again, the man is eating up 18 million. It's essentially like dead cap. He's literally, it's just $18 million just sitting there on one player that's not a quarterback. Like, that's not how this is supposed to work. So they got to figure out a way to bring that number down. And if they sign him to a long-term deal, that number will come way down. I mean, he'll probably be less than $10 million. So you're talking about freeing up, every bit of $8, $9, $10 million. Because his base salary will be probably somewhere in the $7, $8, $9 million neighborhood. Let's bring that shit way down. So that needs to get done. But our cap situation is fine. We got enough to sign, a bunch more free agents if need be. Because, again, you can be creative with the cap. So don't worry about the cap situation. It's fine. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you. My man, King of the North, writes, do you think we will draft a good tight end or try to find another Logan Thomas type in free agency? I fear Ron and the crew undervalue that position. They want a dude there. The problem is, I think they think Logan Thomas is a dude. And if you look at what they did over the lifespan of the tight end position in Carolina, while Ron was there, I don't think he ever crossed paths with Jeremy Shockey. He may have. I know that he got Greg Olsen pretty damn early in his tenure in Carolina. They traded with the Bears for him. And that was his guy. And they really never put in any more resources to couple him with another guy. They drafted, a couple of low-end guys. They had a couple of undrafted guys like Manhurts. Excuse me. They had a couple of other guys, throughout the course of those years. They did draft the kid out of Indiana, Ian Thomas, like 3 years ago now, maybe, might even be 4 years. But they really never spent a ton of, similar to the safety position. I don't think they undervalue it as much as, hey, I just need one. Anything after that is cool. I just need one guy I can rely on. I think they feel like they have that guy in Logan Thomas. And they didn't spend a ton of money to do it. So I think they're looking at the tight end position like, we got Logan Thomas. We'll draft somebody. And then we'll sign another, one of these young dudes out here like last year that we gave a shot to. We'll be fine. Like, we don't need to overinvest at the tight end position because we got other positions we got to pay money to. And we don't feel like the tight end position is one of them. So from that standpoint, I think you may be right in that they're undervaluing the amount of money that they want to invest in the position, not necessarily the impact that the tight end position has on the offense. I think they understand that the tight end position is big in this offense. I think they are undervaluing how much they want to invest in the position. So I think that's where we are right now. Jordan Like the GOAT. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Jordan Like the GOAT. Greatly appreciate you. Jordan Like the GOAT writes, thoughts on Jordan Lewis. I saw that he got signed today, the ex-Dallas Cowboy cornerback. I don't know exactly where he ended up. The former Michigan Wolverine, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys. Let's look his ass up and find out where he landed, shall we? So, see where Jordan Lewis signed. Then I'll give you my opinion on him. Did he go back to Dallas? Yes, he did. So, Jordan Lewis is a cornerback. He went back to Dallas today on a 2-year deal. I know he signed somewhere. I just didn't remember if it was back in Dallas or somewhere else. He's back in Dallas. I liked him at Michigan coming into the league because he was feisty. He was aggressive. Now, he's a little bit undersized for me. Now, you can be 5'10", at the position. And as long as you are a dog, it doesn't matter. He's one of those guys with a dog mentality. He's going to get in your face, delete the airspace. He wants to be physical. My biggest issue with him was he didn't have elite top end speed. Let's see what his 40 time was. Let's see what his 40 time was. I think it was 4.5 something. He ran a 4.47. So yeah, 4.47 isn't, it's a good time, but I didn't feel like he played to 4.47. I felt like he played at like a 4.53. And again, if you've got length and you've got things to combat the fact that you're not, like Dick Sherman is not a 4 anything. Neither was Josh Norman, but they had length so they could overcome the fact that they weren't 4.4 guys. He doesn't have that in his arsenal. So if he gets beat off the line of scrimmage or a guy gets behind him, it's hard for him to make it up with length or, something like that. So I like him as a corner. He's had his issues staying healthy. In Dallas, when he's healthy, he's a quality cornerback. But again, he's not 6'1". He doesn't have long arms. He's 5'10", 5'11" at best. And he's not a burner by any stretch of the imagination. And so there are limitations to his game, but I think he's a quality NFL cornerback. So that's what I think of Jourdan Lewis. Dazzling Urbanite says, I'm a man. I'm 40. That's what I was going to say, but I'm not 40. So I didn't throw in that last part. But I'm a man. So got a super chat here from King of the North. Thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North, as always. Who writes, I wasn't sweating cutting Darby at all. I've said it several times. Ron always finds good cornerbacks for a system. Now let's go get some good coverage linebackers, he says. We're going to see if they can find, for me, I think Cole Holcomb is the perfect fit for the defense. Love Cole Holcomb. Love what he did last year after he was able to get past the injury early in the season. Had a little bit of a concussion in latter portion of the season, but he was good. If they didn't find a true weak side backer, I wouldn't have a problem with that because I think we've got enough guys to get around that. You could stick Cameron Curl down there, and he could be that big nickel. We talked about the Buffalo position. They call it their big nickel, Buffalo. We can get around the weak side linebacker thing. What we have to find is a middle linebacker. That is, to me, like, I don't give a shit about the weak side linebacker because Cole Holcomb, to me, could play weak side linebacker, but they like him at strong side. Okay, cool, whatever. I'm not here to argue about apples and oranges. Strong side, weak side, he could play both. Honestly, he could play in the middle too, but they like him at strong side backer. Fine. We need a middle linebacker. If they get that in the draft, and I've already told you the one I prefer, they get that in the draft, I'm Gucci. That's the biggest thing we need, because when you start going into sub packages and you take a linebacker off the field, you can keep Cole Holcomb and your middle linebacker on the field. When you go into dime packages and you take two linebackers off the field, you can keep your middle linebacker on the field. John Bostic never came off the damn field. That's a problem for me. We need a middle linebacker. I don't give a shit about weak side linebacker right now. You can find a guy. We had KPL playing there at the end of the season. Shit, we had Michael Kendricks playing at weak side line. I don't give a shit about weak side linebacker. I want a true difference-making middle linebacker. That is what I'm concerned with at this moment. Got another super chat. This one is from here we go. This one is from Trev J. Thank you for the super chat, Trev J. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, what's your ideal situation at strong safety? Start Curl over Collins. Fans saying move Collins to linebacker, but do you actually see the coaching staff doing that? No, I don't. We got a taste of, this is the thing that fans kind of get wrapped up into. They have selective memory. The thing that they saw last is what they remember most. We got a glimpse of what the defense is going to more likely than not look like. If Landon Collins, and this is a big if Landon Collins is healthy, we got a chance to see Cameron Curl and Landon Collins on the field at the same time. We got to see that. It's not like Curl didn't play a snap until Collins went down, and so we don't know how the two can coincide and coexist on the same field defensively together. We saw this. We had Gerald Everett at free safety. We had Landon Collins at strong safety, and we had Cameron Curl in the big nickel, down by the line of scrimmage, over the slot, and down inside the box a lot of times. We've seen this. He was like a de facto linebacker. And at times, when they spread us out, he was like a nickelback. We've seen this already. We know how this works. They're not going to all of a sudden ask Landon Collins in year 6 or 7 or 8 of his career, wherever the hell we are now, okay, we need you to play linebacker now. Like, stop playing Madden for a second, okay? Stop making up this mythical shit in your head, and let's deal. Again, I'm here to deal with reality. Landon Collins isn't making this crazy switch and putting on 20 pounds and playing linebacker. Landon Collins is a safety. He's going to remain a safety. Cameron Curl is more like a linebacker than Landon Collins. We saw that. Cameron Curl was physical last. Let's get physical. With offensive linemen and tight ends, he was a man in the run game last year. We saw Cam Curl do that. We know what he's about. He's about that life. He wants all the smoke. So we already know what the answer is there. If Landon Collins is healthy, he's your strong safety. And remember, Landon Collins, Cameron Curl, you want these guys to be interchangeable. So you're going to move these guys around. I wouldn't be shocked to see a defense in which they say we got to get our best players on the field, and you get a 3 safety look. And they take a linebacker off the field, which is essentially what the nickel is, the big nickel, the Buffalo nickel is. That's one of our best formations. You're going to see that quite a bit. So I don't make a lot out of this. If Landon Collins is healthy, he goes back to where he was, and he was starting to be utilized well. Remember the Dallas game he got injured in? It was his best game of the season to that point. He blitzed, he forced the fumble that caused the safety. He was making tackles in the back. He was playing at a very high level in that game when he got hurt. Made a great tackle on a bootleg where he says, you know what, that's not my guy, but I see where he's going. I'm going to take him and I'm going to clean his ass up. Easily would have been a first down on 3rd down. He makes the tackle, or 2nd down would have been a first down. He made the tackle that forced them to do the play on 3rd down that ultimately turned into a forced fumble that he forced the sack on. So he was outstanding in that game. That's what I see the situation being, Trev. Thank you for the super chat. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor writes, hey, Lou, just saying, you mad, bro? I'm not mad at all. You know I get passionate when I start talking about some shit, okay? You know I get passionate. That's all it is. Look, it ain't going to be too many times I come up here, especially if it's not after a game. The only time you're going to see me hot about something, really hot, in the moment, is like the draft. You saw me upset that time we drafted Daron Payne. I was pissed. Felt like there were better options available. After a game, emotions are running high. I come on right after the game's over. We're live. Somebody asks me a question and it hits a nerve. And it brings me back to how I felt when that might have happened in the game and I get pissed. Yeah. You're not going to catch me pissed off about something in March. I'm passionate about something in March. I'm not pissed off. I'm not mad, bro. I'm not mad. Just saying. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Shet A. Raab. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Shet A. Raab, who writes, peace, my brother. Hope all is well with you. Likewise. What do you think about re-signing running back Lamar Miller? I was shocked that they did that. I'm not going to lie to you. We didn't see Lamar Miller at all last season. No, there was no reason to. I told you guys we weren't supposed to see him. He was a break in case of an emergency contingency plan. Only way we would have seen him is if we couldn't get the young stallion back on the field, Gibby, at any point, you know. And Gibby came back the following week after he was signed. Remember, he had to go through COVID protocols, so he wasn't available that first week. Gibby missed that game against the Seattle Seahawks. And then the next week against Carolina, Gibby was back. And Lamar Miller had no reason to be active, so he wasn't, because we had our 3 running backs back of Gibby, J.D. McKissick, and Peyton Barber. So he wasn't active, and the same thing followed in Week 17 and in the playoff game. So I just assumed he was a break of in case of emergency running back, and they were going to move on. And they said, nah, we like Lamar Miller. Honestly, I'm not making too much of it because to me, it's camp. It's camp bodies. Instead of putting yourself in a position, I still wouldn't be shocked if they drafted a young back. You know, I don't know what Bryce Love is going to do this year, if he's going to remain healthy or not. They may be tired of waiting on him, and they may draft a young guy. They may get a young guy undrafted, bring him in, and be impressed with him, like James Robinson for the Jacksonville Jaguars last year. I don't know what's going to happen. I just know they are saying to themselves, in the event that something happens at the running back position, we don't want to be shuffling our papers, as a wise man used to say. We want to have a guy here already that we trust. We don't want to have to go out on the streets looking for somebody. We got him here. Let's keep him here. And, you know, he could not make the team and end up on the practice squad. If the same practice squad rules apply in 2021, and I know a lot of the teams are going to advocate for the practice squad to stay the way that it was because they really loved the rules, the way they were carried out last year. If you can have a veteran like Lamar Miller on your practice squad, I think they would love to have that. And if they have an injury like they did last year, he'll be ready to rock and roll. And he'll already be inside of your building, so you don't have to go through, if there are COVID protocols, which I assume there will be. There's COVID protocols and things of that nature in place like there were last year. You don't want to have a guy from outside of your building come in, have to sit out a week to go through the proper COVID protocols to then activate that guy. You want him already here so that he can be on the field for you when you need him to be. So I think it's more about having him here, much like last year, as an emergency than it is, hey, we love him and we want him on the football team. I think if the situation is similar to last year where they've got their 3 backs and they don't have any space for him, they want to stash him on the practice squad and just have him here already. So I think it's more about that than anything else, but we will see. JJO HTTR, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. TA, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. TA writes, is our offensive line as bad as people think? I don't think it is. I'm telling you it's not. That's the thing that I've been trying to convey to everybody out there that continues to sing this, to continue to push this narrative of, oh, we need to upgrade the offensive line. So if we spend this 19th pick on the offensive tackle, like, nah, that's not, I don't think, I could be wrong. I always preface everything I'm saying with this. I could be wrong. I don't know how they feel about the offensive line. But I've said this multiple times. I don't think they view the offensive line as a sieve or a massive problem that needs to be upgraded. They've got 4 of the 5 offensive linemen locked in for the season and have them locked in with the deal for Chase Rouillet. They've got them locked in to at least the 2022 season. And Sheriff is the only guy that's not locked in past this upcoming season. So you could look at the left tackle position and say, yeah, they could upgrade that. And you're not wrong if you feel that way. I'm not here telling you that Cornelius Lucas or Jaron Christian are, can't miss left tackle guys that you plug and play and you feel great about. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just telling you, you can get by. We got by with those guys. maybe next year they say, all right, let's upgrade left tackle. They don't have to do that right now, though. That's all I'm saying. And Cornelius Lucas said at the end of the year in his exit interview, he said, look, I just want to be able to continue to grow. Like, I still haven't really scratched the surface of what I can be. I feel really comfortable here. I feel really comfortable with the offensive line coach here. I think I can actually be the best version of myself here. And I tend to believe him. He wasn't terrible last year. Actually, he was quality, of high quality for the position he was thrusted into. I'm not saying he was an A-, but he was a C+, B-. And that's for a backup tackle in this league, because remember, he didn't start the season. It was Jaron Christian's job. That's not half bad. I don't trust either one of those guys. They both got two first names. But I've said this all along, give me the guy that I feel like has potential, that I feel like there's more that I can drag out of him, and I'll continue to work with that guy. And I think that's how they view both Jaron Christian and Cornelius Lucas. So, no, the offensive line is not as bad as people think. And I've been saying that for a very long time, but people are going to feel the way that they feel. And I don't usually try to convince them otherwise. I just say what I say. You can rock with it. You can not rock with it, but it's there. You know how I feel. JOHTTR, thank you for the super chat and double up, thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. JOHTTR writes, if Fitzpatrick plays halfway decent, the defense should pick up the rest of the slack. If only it worked that way. If only it worked that way. This is still not an elite defense, contrary to popular belief. This is a good defense, a really good defense. It's not elite. We saw that against the Buccaneers last year. We have deficiencies. If they clean up those deficiencies and they get better, then they may take that step to elite. But Ryan Fitzpatrick with a good defense is still 7-9. Ryan Fitzpatrick with an elite defense, maybe 9-7, or maybe 9-8, maybe 10-7, maybe. But we're not an elite defense. So for me, even if we played well, we still had games last year when this defense wasn't good enough. The Cleveland game and the Detroit game and the Giants game, the second one. There were still games where this defense wasn't good enough. The Buccaneers game. There were games, Carolina game, where this defense wasn't good enough. Flat out wasn't good enough. And having Ryan Fitzpatrick may have made a difference in some of those games. He definitely would have. He would have made a difference in the Carolina game for sure. For sure. I don't doubt that one bit. But he might have had the exact same game Dwayne had against the Browns. He might have thrown 3-4 interceptions. What did Dwayne throw in that game? 3 interceptions and fumble twice? Whatever it was. He might have did the same shit. So, who knows? That's the thought process. If Fitzpatrick comes in here, he seems to be an upgrade over what we put on the field at quarterback last year. I think most people will say that. I don't necessarily agree with that wholeheartedly because there weren't the turnovers. And in some of those games, if we had turnovers, we lose. There is this element of, hey, with Fitzpatrick, you might put up some more points. And we didn't always score a ton of points. We talked about how we didn't score 30 once last year. We scored 40 once, never hit 30. Not a single time last season. That's hard to do in an NFL season. So scoring wasn't our thing. And with Fitzpatrick, the thought process is you're going to score more points. That's not actually true. That's what I'm trying to convey to people is, it's like that Hertz commercial. They say, hey, you get that car from Hertz? Not exactly. Not exactly. Hey, are they going to come pick us up from our house? Not exactly. Same thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. We played against him in Tampa Bay one year. He had 500 yards of total offense they did that day. Fitzpatrick threw for every bit of 4-something, it felt like, in that game. If not, like 390-something in that game. Went up and down the field on our defense. He threw like 2 or 3 picks. They fumbled another one. They scored 3 points despite 500 yards of total offense. Now, their field goal kicker missed some kicks too. Like, don't want to leave that out. But he didn't get him in the end zone. He threw a stupid pick to Josh Norman. I do remember that. There may have been another pick in that game, may not have been. Bottom line is, just because he comes in and he upgrades the position doesn't mean it's going to come with a bunch more points. That's what I'm saying. We'll see. I hope it comes with a lot more points. But with a lot more points, probably going to come some turnovers. And there were games last year like the Cincinnati game. Hey, just don't turn it over and we're going to win. And I'm not saying Fitzpatrick turns it over in every game because that's not true. That would be false. If you feel like that's what I'm saying, let me clarify that right now. He doesn't turn it over in every game. But there's some games where you're like, hey, just don't turn it over and we're good. That 49ers game, when Alex was stinking it up and he threw the interception, we're like, look, dude, the 49ers stink. Just don't turn it over and we can handle these boys. They got Nick Mullins at quarterback, for God's sake. Stop. Don't turn it over. Dwayne came in and he tried to give the game away. Just don't turn it over and we got this. The defense scored pretty much all our damn points for us. I don't know if you can tell Ryan Fitzpatrick, hey, just simmer down, man. Just don't turn it over. That's not in his mentality. He's a gunslinger. So he's going to fire it. And it may benefit us. There are going to be games where it benefits us. And I'm telling you, people keep talking about how exciting. There are going to be some exciting games, man. There are going to be some exciting games. They're not wrong. There are going to be some games, though, where you're like, bro, just don't turn it over. We can beat these dudes. They chumps. And he's going to turn it over. And we're going to lose. Anyway, I digress. Thank you for the super chat. Got another one here from King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, King of the North, for your 4th super chat of the night. King of the North, who writes, I hate turnovers, especially backbreakers. I will take a solid game manager over entertaining gunslinger who throws picks. I think 17-7 defensive games are entertaining. Winning is entertaining. We sound like kindred spirits, okay? That's what you sound like, because I feel the exact same way. Like, everybody who gets upset about, I wasn't a massive Alex Smith fan, right? But what did I tell you? I don't mind Alex Smith if he's not turning the ball over. When I had a problem with Alex Smith is, look, bro, you can't be captain check down and you turning the football over. Those two things don't mix. They don't jive well. You got to be one or the other. If you're trying to, check it down and you can't even do that correctly like he did in week 17 versus the Eagles, and you're throwing a pick trying to check it down, that's when you got to get the hell off my field, man. Like, now I can't do anything with you. Because the one thing you're supposed to be good at, you're not even good at right now. With Ryan Fitzpatrick, there are going to be some games, as I mentioned, where he's going to sling it around the yard and he's not going to turn it over. And it's going to be poetry in motion. It's going to be fun to watch. And there's going to be some games where he can't get right. And they're going to be 1 or 2 of those games where you say, all you had to do, bruh, was manage the game. Well, we didn't need Ryan Fitzpatrick, the gunslinger, the guy that thought he could fit it in that tight hole and he got batted in the air and picked off. We didn't need that guy today. We're playing against the 32nd ranked offense. Our defense was going to shut them down, and all you had to do was take care of the rock, and we were going to win this game. And you came out here, guns a-blazing. You threw a pick 6. You threw another pick that resulted in a return that had the ball, their possession starting at our 22-yard line, and that turned into another touchdown, and we ended up losing the game 27-20. And you say, we didn't need that from you today. The defense was going to give up 13, and we was going to be straight. That's the dilemma that you find yourself in with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And again, there's 16 years of a body of work that proves that out. That there'll be good games, there'll be bad games. When it's all said and done, you're going to end up somewhere in between 6-11 and 9-8, more likely than not. Will that be good enough to get you in the playoffs? With Ryan Fitzpatrick, even when he's at his best, it's usually not good enough. 10-6 with the Jets. Last year, 10-6 with the Dolphins. Neither of them good enough to get in the playoffs. That's his luck. That's who he's been in his career. So I would tell you, no, it's probably not going to be good enough. But I'm with you. I'd much rather win the game 13-3 and have a defensive gem served up where we're dominant. That 49ers game last year, 23-16, that was entertaining. That was fun. That was dominant defense, closing the show, doing everything. Offense was anemic. I enjoyed myself thoroughly watching that game. The defense was dominant for a stretch there. Metaphor, thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Metaphor. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, don't know if you mentioned, but do we want to sign Eric Fisher for our O-line since Kansas City released him? And let's get GAMEDAY already. No, I haven't mentioned Eric Fisher because he tore his Achilles last year at the end of the season. Who knows when he'll be ready? And he's not a young guy. So you got to think that I think he was in the 2013 NFL draft, I believe. So we're talking about maybe year 8 of Eric Fisher getting up there in age, torn Achilles tendon. Don't know how much it's going to cost, but he's coming off of an injury. I don't see them investing again in a veteran. If anything, they draft a guy, not invest in a veteran there. As far as Kenny GAMEDAY, there's no way he's coming to Washington. I don't see that happen, especially not after they just signed Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Let's see. I think we got another super chat in here. And we do. So let's get to that. This is from my man, Chauncey Davis. Thank you for tripling up, Chauncey. Greatly appreciate you. My man, Chauncey Davis, writes, Lou, we have 2 QBs that know the system. I don't know the reason for signing Fitz. I don't care. The 2 we have are going to push each other. You're not wrong. But as I've mentioned before, they brought Ryan Fitzpatrick in here to push them and to create competition. And he's going to do that. But the money he's being paid also suggests that he was brought here to start. So again, he's going to get every opportunity. And I think he's going to seize that opportunity to unseat those 2 guys and win the job. Again, combined salaries of Kyle Allen and Taylor Heinicke do not equal that of the $10 million Ryan Fitzpatrick is making. So, again, we can sit here and talk about the cap number, and it's really like $6.5 million base and this, that, and the third with incentives and bonuses. That's fine and dandy. It's $10 million. It's more than what Kyle Allen and Taylor Heinicke are making combined this season, okay? They've brought him in here to compete, yes, and he's not being given anything. But the prevailing thought is he will beat them out, okay? That's the prevailing thought. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. We'll see. But at the end of the day, I've said this already. This is another part of signing Fitz that I don't love. If he's not starting, he will start because somebody's going to get hurt. Because everywhere he goes, the starter gets hurt. Period. Yes, it is incredible, Ree. And I talked about the Buccaneers being able to bring everybody back because Tom was going to take less. He was going to restructure, and he did. And we saw that one coming a mile away, or at least I did. Anyway, a typical brother. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. A typical brother who writes, that comment about Fitz is spot on. He can be Fitz magic or Fitz tragic. We're going to be playing musical chairs at the quarterback spot with him and Heineke. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, how they view him, who wins the job, because it could be a Dolphins situation like last year where in a game that they're struggling and the quarterback's not giving them what they want, they go to Fitzpatrick. They go to Fitty, and he could come off the bench like he did multiple times for the Dolphins last year and win them the game. And I told you, I love him as a backup. I've stated this numerous times. I do not want him anywhere near my roster because he's ultimately going to start. He's not going to remain the backup the entire season. That's never been Ryan Fitzpatrick. Somebody's going to get hurt and he's going to get in. But if you could keep him at the backup level, he's the perfect backup because if shit isn't going well, I told you, I love my backups that come in and they're going to do something. Something. Whether it's positive or negative, something's about to happen. Those are the best backups in the league. Because that's the guy that can rally you from a 21-3 deficit and bring you back and you win the game 27-24. That's the kind of guy that can do that. When the guys that come in and just don't give a shit. Throw caution to the wind and they just slinging it around the yard. Those are the guys I want on my squad as a backup quarterback. I don't want the Colt McCoys in the game as a backup. Because he's not doing shit. He's trying to manage the game. If you get a lead and you can run it and the defense is humming, yeah, he'll protect that. He'll sit on it like a mama bird sitting on eggs. Yeah, he'll nurse that thing and get you to the finish line. He ain't bringing you back. He ain't doing that. So I like the dudes that's going to make something happen when they come in the game. That's Fitz. However, when you start him, that's when he starts kind of stepping outside of the lines and he's like, hey, I know I can make that throw. And you're like, hey, as a backup, sure, knock yourself out. As the starter, we need you to protect the football a little bit better than that. So, are we going to be playing musical chairs at the quarterback position? Maybe. We did it last year. I could see it happening again this year. One thing's for certain, with Fitzpatrick usually at the quarterback position, nothing is etched in stone, nor is it solidified at the quarterback position, usually with him. It's usually a bunch of, rotating decks at the quarterback position when he's on the roster. So we will see what happens. Got another super chat. This one is from Chauncey Davis, your fourth super chat of the night. Really appreciate you, Chauncey Davis. And my man, Chauncey, writes, Lou, I love how you write my name in all caps every single time. Lou, I know he's not the future, but barring any injury, Taylor Heineke can carry us for a year. I still see how the O-line rallied around him in the playoffs, in the offs. I want to see Taylor Heineke. That's part of the, I'm not going to, okay, can we keep it a buck? Part of the reason I'm salty about Ryan Fitzpatrick coming here is because, one, I've already laid out for you guys what I wanted in a quarterback that they brought in. If you're going to bring somebody in, I wanted young guy with upside, or I wanted established, consistent veteran. One of the two, which Ryan Fitzpatrick is neither. Okay? He's a veteran, but he's far from consistent unless you're talking about his consistent ability to be inconsistent. That's nor here nor there, though. I said, if you're not going to bring in one of those two types of quarterbacks, and let me just throw in this caveat, I'm still open, and I was open, and I am open to bringing in a young guy, bringing in a young gunner, okay? But if you're going to bring in a veteran, somebody already in the league, I wanted one of those two types of quarterbacks. If not, my idea of going forward was, hey, let's find out what we got. Taylor Heineke showed a little something. Kyle Allen showed a little something. Let's see what we got. Let's not stunt their growth. I equate bringing in Ryan Fitzpatrick to this situation. This is how I equate it. And this could be a faulty analogy, and you may be able to find faults in it, but this is the way I view it. Okay? And it may not be an apples to apples comparison. I look at Ryan Fitzpatrick as a 33-year-old point guard. You know, Tony Parker, when he went to the Charlotte Hornets at the end of his career. Here it is, this veteran, and I shouldn't call him Tony Parker because he won a ton of rings in the NBA and was a hell of a player. But I just want you to kind of envision that. Older player, end of his career. You know what he is. He's not what he used to be. And I'm not saying that fits at all, but end of his career, older player, established veteran. You know what you're getting. You just drafted a point guard. And we didn't just draft anybody, but we got young quarterbacks on the roster and we're not sure about. You bring in old 38-year-old Tony Parker and he's eating up minutes. And you can't find out what young point guard can do for your team. So what you do in the NBA is you trade 38-year-old Tony Parker to make room for young point guard for more minutes so you can find out if young point guard can do it. We did the opposite. We brought in old point guard to eat up minutes to take away from the opportunity to find out what young point guard can do. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, again, as people have pointed out, those young guys have an opportunity to win the job. So they have a chance to get all of the clock, all of the minutes that they need to get to show if they can or can't do it. If they don't win the job, and as somebody brought up on the show last night, in practice, Taylor Heineke's best attributes may not be on display. So that may prohibit him from having the advantage that he's supposed to in the off-schedule, scramble, extend department, which Ryan Fitzpatrick can do as well. But Taylor Heineke's the younger guy. You love to see him use his legs and maneuver in the pocket and create things and make things happen. Either way, that's generally not what happens in practice. So the guy that wins the job might be the 38-year-old gunslinger, but he's taking away an opportunity to see what the youngins have. And that, to me, is therein where the problem lies for me, is that I want to see what the young boys have. I want to see what the young boys are doing, what they talking about. I know what he talking about. He ain't talking nothing. He ain't talking about but a bunch of bullshit. I know he's talking over there just yapping, flapping his gums. I done heard him talk that shit for 16 years. I know what the hell he's talking about, okay? I can go over there, listen to the conversation for 3 minutes. I know what he's talking about. I don't need to hear any more of that shit. I've heard it for 16 years. I want to see what the young boys are talking about. They talking about some new shit, some good shit. I want to see what they talking about. It might be some bullshit too, but I don't know. I'd love to hear the conversation. I don't know if we're going to get that opportunity or not. That's all. That's the reason I'm probably more frustrated with this than anything else. Is we got two dudes here that showed flashes last year. Show me more. One's 25, the other's 28. Show me more. They're telling me, nah, I don't know. We might be able to get them some more minutes, but we're going to bring this 38-year-old in here and we're going to give him some clock. Not my idea of how I want to do this. But okay, we'll see. We'll see. Thank you for the super chat. Chauncey Davis. Got another super chat. This one is from King of the North. Thank you for your 5th super chat of the night. Can't see you. Really appreciate you as always. King of the North, who writes, did you like the money we gave Samuels? Not going to mess with Terry's future. I like that Ron coached him before because he knows exactly what he's paying for. No more Paul Richardson debacles. Love everything you just said. The money is right around what I thought he was going to cost. I'm still surprised that Corey Davis is the leader in the clubhouse. I stated that at the top of the show. But I love the fact that, like you said, it's not going to mess with Terry's money. You know, if Terry needs to be the alpha in the room, which he probably will be when, you know, his deal is up, it's not going to be hard to make him the alpha at the receiver position. You're not going to have to pay him $17 million to make him the guy in the locker room. You could pay Terry 14 and that'd be more than enough to make him happy. And again, I don't know what the future holds for Terry, because if he wants to get paid big boy money, he's going to have to put up big boy stats. That's why they needed to get him some help so that teams can't concentrate on him. And if he puts up big boy numbers, he's going to get big boy bread. So I talked about needing to make sure you don't overspend on this wide receiver number 2, so that when it comes time to pay wide receiver 1, you don't have to go way above market value to do it. So I think they've done a good thing there. Like you said, they know what they're getting. It's not a surprise. It's not Paul Richardson. You're not looking to have a guy who's been injury prone come in and you don't know what you're getting and you're hoping he does what he did last year. In all actuality, it is a similar situation. Paul Richardson was coming off of his best year in Seattle. He was injury plagued the years prior to that. Curtis Samuel has dealt with some injuries in Carolina, not to the extent of Paul Richardson, but he's dealt with some injuries, and he was coming off of his best year when we signed him. Curtis Samuel was coming off his best year as a pro, and we signed him. But the difference is Jay Gruden didn't know Paul Richardson. He didn't know what he was getting himself into. Like you said, Ron Rivera does know Curtis Samuel, and he does know what he's getting himself into. And for that, you have to feel good. Okay, got another super chat. This one is from Metaphor. Thank you for tripling up. Greatly appreciate you. Metaphor, who writes, possible name after losses, oh Fritzy bastard. Look, he's got so many nicknames at this point, it's not even funny. I can just tell you this. There are going to be plenty of nicknames for him when he has some of those games that people are not happy about. So with that said, I want to go through the free agents that were signed today. So we'll do that in the free agency column. And I'm going to go right to that right now. So let's go to the free agency column and talk about the free agents that were signed and some of the new names that have surfaced for some of these teams. A couple of big signings again today. I talked about this one. This is funny to me because I drop these gems on your melon all the time. And a lot of you know when it happens, you come to me on Twitter and on IG and say, you told us this, you were right. And I told you when I'm wrong, I'm going to tell you I'm wrong. When I'm right, God damn it, you're going to know I'm right. Okay, because I'm going to tell you. What did I tell you about Kyle Van Noy? What did I say he was going to do? Huh? What did I tell y'all? Before he was on the trade block, before they released him, I said, who doesn't already know what's happening here? He's going to make a beeline for New England. They always do. Kyle Van Noy back in New England. He announced that tonight on social. So who didn't see that one coming, right? Right. Let's see. We go through the list and see if any more guys were signed. I talked about the Bengals getting their hands on Larry Ogunjobi, the defensive lineman for the Browns that I really like. Don't know the details of that deal, but I think the Bengals have done a phenomenal job in free agency to this point. I thought they would be more aggressive along the offensive line. Honestly, after what happened to Joe Burrow last season, I thought they would be aggressive in getting a Kevin Zeitler back that was out there, getting one of these offensive guards that were available, getting one of these guys that was available on the offensive line. Thought they would be very heavy in on the former New England Patriots guard that signed with the Chiefs, Joe Thuney. None of that. They just pretty much said, nah, we good. We'll figure it out. So they must have an idea of what they want to do in the draft, and I think they're going to be really heavy on offensive linemen. But they signed Larry Ogunjobi from the Browns. As we continue on going through the list of signees, not a lot of massive signings today. A couple of big ones, though. We talked about Kyle Van Noy going back to the Patriots. Talked about Ogunjobi going to the Browns, or excuse me, the Bengals. Obviously, we're going to talk here in a second about Washington signing wide receiver Curtis Samuel. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. There's been a discussion about wide receiver Kenny Golladay potentially going to the Giants. We talked about that already. So that could be a thing here shortly. Let's see. Any other names jump out at me? We talked about the Seahawks and them getting busy today. We'll talk about some of those guys that they were able to acquire here in a second. Let me go ahead and refresh this just to make sure we haven't missed anything. All right. So as we keep going down this list, it's just amazing to me how many guys that the Houston Texans, New England Patriots, and Jacksonville Jaguars have acquired in a 3-day span. It is amazing to me how many guys each of those ball clubs have signed to this point. As we continue looking at this list, I think the Buccaneers re-signed another one of their players today, I think. But we talked about them getting all of their stuff back. We knew that that was a realistic possibility, and they've essentially done that. But I don't see a lot of the deals that I've seen throughout the course of the day here. So I'm going to have to go to my Twitter account because I've been keeping track of everything there, because I don't see them. They didn't update the site like they normally do. So the Arizona Cardinals traded for Rodney Hudson. That's a big move. You know, and AJ Green signed with the Cardinals as well. So it's all starting to come back to me. As I said, I'm gonna go to my Twitter account because I've been pretty much keeping tabs of everything via Twitter. So my site that I like to frequent, they haven't done a good job of keeping up with all of the things that have gone down during the course of the day. But again, that's why you gotta love Twitter. All you gotta do is hit that like button and they keep a running tally for you. So as we go through, let's see. Talked about the Seahawks and Ahkello Witherspoon. Love the move. We've talked about that already. Talked about Gerald Everett in Seattle as well. That's a great move. Let's see. We got AJ Green. I want to talk about the Cardinals for a second. AJ Green signs a 1-year deal to play for the Arizona Cardinals. I think it is a fantastic destination for him, first and foremost. One, he idolizes Larry Fitzgerald. If you've ever listened to AJ Green speak, he wanted to have a Larry Fitzgerald type career. He wanted to play for one team his entire career. He respects the way Larry has gone about his business. Like that was the guy he looked up to in the league. And to go to Arizona and potentially have a chance to play with him, we don't know what Larry's going to decide to do, whether he decides to retire or come back for another season. Whatever happens, it's a great move because there are people out there that believe AJ Green has a lot of football left in him. It at times didn't appear that way last year. He wasn't the same Adriel Jeremiah Green, but he's talented and he still can play. And, you know, you're not always right 1 year removed from an injury, a major injury. So I thought that getting Rodney Hudson via trade with the Raiders and then turning around and getting AJ Green, I thought the Cardinals had an exceptional day in free agency and has been outstanding this entire time. You know, getting J.J. Watt and getting Kelvin Beachum back and getting some of the pieces that they've been able to put together. I think they've done a tremendous job to this point, and it's really interesting to see if they can take that next step in that tough, rough, and rugged NFC West division. Let's see. I talked about this briefly, but I want to talk about it again. Rashard Higgins, 1-year deal to come back to Cleveland. He, to me, was really good for them this past year. I thought somebody would come calling and he'd find greener pastures elsewhere. I thought somebody would see what he was doing and say, you know what, we'll give you a 2-year deal. You know, similar to what the Patriots gave to my man from the 49ers. I thought he was going to get something similar to that, where somebody would see what he was doing and give him an opportunity elsewhere. I was shocked that he went back to Cleveland. I don't know why I'm shocked. He was good, but I thought they were going to look to upgrade him. Let me upgrade you. I thought they were going to go out and get a veteran like a Marvin. I kept wanting Marvin Jones to end up there because it just seemed like a perfect fit. But he goes back to Cleveland. That's interesting. Anyway, let's see what else happened throughout the course of this day. Seen all of that. And, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. Not a lot of big moves made today. Obviously, the move by Washington to get Curtis Samuel is one of the bigger dominoes at the receiver position. Still, the big dominoes haven't fallen. They haven't dropped. Still no Juju Smith-Schuster. Still no Kenny Golladay. Still no Will Fuller. That's still amazing to me that those guys still haven't found homes and we have started our new league year. I'm amazed by that. And so we'll see what happens with those players and how long it takes them to find homes. But I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. If we get out of the first week and those guys haven't found a new team, I'm going to be utterly shocked and surprised. I'm shocked now, but knowing what the market is and how it's kind of been set up, I'm not all that surprised. But if they're not signed by the end of this week, I will be surprised. Because you don't see names like that go into the second week of free agency. You just don't. Got a super chat here from JM. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man JM writes, thoughts on Gerald Everett with the Hawks. So excited to see how Waldron works with him in the new offense. Know him well from the Rams. I talked about him earlier. My man Vincent Coe asked about all of the signings and moves made by the Seattle Seahawks recently, including Gerald Everett. And I talked about how nobody knows your stuff better than a family member. And we talked about Ahkello Witherspoon, former San Francisco 49er. To me, nobody develops secondary players better than the Seattle Seahawks. No one is able to identify that a player fits what they're looking for. And Ahkello Witherspoon fits a Seattle Seahawks cornerback from a DNA standpoint. He's long, he's rangy, he's athletic. Those are the guys that through the test of time with this organization, with its current leadership of Pete Carroll and John Schneider, these are the kind of guys that they've brought in. I went all the way back to Brandon Browner, but Dick Sherman and Byron Maxwell. We've seen the long, rangy corner maximize his value in Seattle. Shaquille Griffin, another guy that they did that with. They took a corner in Trey Flowers and moved him from a different position and stuck him outside, and he turned out to be a solid player for them at times. So they know what they're looking for. Ahkello Witherspoon fits. But you asked me about Gerald Everett. I love the move. He's a very athletically gifted tight end. It's exactly what they need. To me, they've always went to the well for older tight ends, it seems like. You know, they did the Greg Olsons of the world and things of that nature. It's good to see them get a young guy in there. You know, Jacob Hollister is cool. I know I think he moved on in free agency. He may have. I knew he was a free agent. But he's cool. But, you know, Gerald Everett is different. And I think he's a guy that you're going to be able to do some really creative things with. You can flex him, detach him from the offensive line and get him out of the core. You can line him up in tight in Los Angeles with the Rams. They moved him back around. They used him as an H-back at times. They used him as a pseudo fullback. And you can do a lot of things with him. And he's a good enough athlete that he beats linebackers and safeties. He's got a big body and catch radius. I think he's going to make beautiful music with Russell Wilson. I think it's a really good pickup by the Seahawks. I was really interested in Gerald Everett as well in free agency. So that's a good move by the Seahawks. So with that said, we've been at it for 2 hours and a half. I'm going to go ahead and cut this baby short. I don't think that's the appropriate way for me to phrase that. There's nothing short about 2 hours and 35 minutes. But we're going to get out of here, man. All right. So I appreciate you guys chopping it up with me on a Wednesday night that turned into Thursday morning. Greatly appreciate you as always. Look forward to chopping it up with you in the very near future. I think, I don't know why, but March Madness gets underway today. I think we have a chance to see the NFL have some big moves made on Thursday. I don't know why. I got a gut feeling. I think we're going to start to see some of these receiver dominoes fall. I think Kenny Golladay gets a deal. I think once he gets paid, I think the other guys start to realize what it is, because Golladay was recognized as universally as the biggest free agent target at the wide receiver position in this market. So once he gets his money, I think everything is going to be based off of him. And if he has to take a 1-year deal, so be it. If he takes a 2-year deal, whatever it is, whatever the money looks like, I think you'll start to see those other guys get signed. And then you'll start to see some of these other names. Also, I do want to bring this up. Patrick Peterson to the Minnesota Vikings on a 1-year deal, right around $10 million, I believe I saw. That is a big deal. For me, I'm shocked that Patrick Peterson didn't find a way back to Arizona. But I told you their general manager, Steve Keim, didn't seem all that enthused about bringing back Patrick Peterson. He sounded like in his mind he was ready to move on from Patrick Peterson. It's funny because as a player in Patrick Peterson's position, you've been through the good times, the bad times, and you wanted to see this thing through. It feels like they're going in a direction that you want to be a part of it because you've been there when it wasn't great. And now he might be missing out on the best of what they have to offer in Arizona. Who's to say? We'll see. He goes to a Vikings team that could use some help at the cornerback position, definitely. He said he's open to playing safety if that's something that teams are intrigued by. I think he's going to Minnesota to play cornerback. We know that Mike Zimmer loves his cornerbacks. And take it a step further, I think they feel like they're going to be able to get after the quarterback, getting some of their stuff back up front, Danielle Hunter most notably. And so I think they feel like they're going to be able to get back to what they once were defensively, get some of that stuff back that was injured last year, and be able to put pressure on the quarterback and allow a guy like Patrick Peterson to maybe make some plays in that secondary. The biggest issue with the Vikings last year, young secondary. You bring in Patrick Peterson. He's a veteran. He'll be able to show some of those young Thundercats the ropes. So I like the move. I'm just surprised by the move. I thought he would have wanted to go somewhere where he was going to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. I don't think Minnesota is necessarily that destination. But then again, you're 30 whatever years old. You're looking for a new home. There may not be a bunch of suitors in the market for a 32-year-old corner. And if money was important, maybe that was the best offer on the table for him. I would have thought a place like New Orleans would have made more sense. Now, again, no Drew Brees. I don't know what the real prospects for winning the Super Bowl is these days in New Orleans, but I would have thought that New Orleans would have made a ton more sense. They lose Janoris Jenkins. They need a veteran corner. They're sniffing around Dick Sherman. I would have thought that Patrick Peterson would have been a better option than Dick Sherman at this point of their careers, but that's just me. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate you guys chopping it up with me tonight. Look forward to kicking it with y'all again in the very near future. if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Thank you for joining me on the Louie T Network podcast. God bless and good night.
Louie T Network.